Testing, testing.
Hello. Yes, you're ready to go. Yep.
One minute warning. Okay. Oh, we'll let Joy come up here. Great. So I think I'll call this meeting to order officially. And first step is to do a roll call.
Councilmember Lyons.
Here.
Councilmember San Antonio.
Present.
Councilmember Schaefer.
Here.
Deputy Mayor O'Hara.
Present.
Mayor Ehlers.
Here.
Record will show all members of the City Council are present tonight.
And if you can, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, tonight we have two special presentations. The first one is a proclamation in recognition of certified green businesses, Surf Dogs, Java Hut, Encinitas Periodontics and Dental Implants, Solano Center for Environmental Innovation, the Encinitas Public Library, and Pacific View Arts. So I believe we're going to meet over here, and if the representatives from each of those will come up and join me on the center stage over here. Make it crowded up here. It's quite, come on up in here. Yeah. Crystal will help me wrangle and herd everybody into the right place. I think we have, and I think if you have one representative to speak, if you want to say a few words, we'll have time to do that for each one. But the way this is going to work, I'll read it's a one proclamation, but then we have one document for each of you, or each organization. So I'll do it in order. I'll read the proclamation. I'll then recognize each business, and then one person can say a few words if they'd like to. So as I said, we have Surf Dogs, Java Hut, and Surf Dog DKM Music Company up here. Who's that, by the way? There we go. Okay. I've got Encinitas Periodontics and Dental Implants right there. Okay. And I've got Solana Center for Environmental Innovation. I didn't see Russ. Yeah, there are a few more there I noticed. Encinitas Public Library. Oh, there we go. And Pacific View Arts Center. Okay, very good. So, and with that, let me read the proclamation. Encinitas Green Business Network Recognition Proclamation. Whereas the California Green Business Network is a statewide consortium of local programs operated by counties and cities throughout California that recognizes businesses that implement environmentally minded practices to reduce pollution, conserve water and energy, and protect human health. And whereas the City of Encinitas Green Business Network, launched in 2024, supports local businesses in achieving California Green Business Certification by connecting them with peer learning opportunities, green building experts, environmentally sustainable business practices, and available rebates at no cost to participating businesses. And whereas in 2020, the City of Encinitas adopted Resolution 2020-90 declaring that a climate emergency threatens our city, state, nation, and the world. And whereas the City of Encinitas adopted its most recent climate action plan in 2020, committing to reducing greenhouse gas emissions through the implementation of identified measures and by encouraging community-wide participation in achieving established greenhouse gas reduction goals and targets. And whereas the City of Encinitas seeks to recognize businesses certified through the Encinitas Green Business Network for demonstrating leadership in climate action, aligning with the city's climate action goals, and serving as models for the Encinitas business community. Now, therefore, I, Bruce Ehlers, Mayor of the City of Encinitas, along with all the City Council members, do hereby proclaim the following businesses as certified green businesses: Surf Dogs Java Hut and Surf Dog DKM Music Company, Encinitas Periodontics and Dental Implants, Solana Center for Environmental Innovation, Encinitas Public Library, and Pacific View Arts Center. And now, therefore, Surf Dogs Java Hut and Surf Dog DKM Music Company, a family-owned coffee shop, and an artist management firm are recognized by the city for demonstrating leadership in sustainability and environmental responsibility, exemplified by accreditation in Surfrider's ocean-friendly restaurant program. Very good. And building renovations constructed in accordance with Build It Green's Green Point-related gold standard. And also now, therefore, Encinitas Periodontics and Dental Implants is recognized by the City of Encinitas for demonstrating a commitment to environmental responsibility by taking action to divert waste, conserve energy, limit water use, and reduce their overall carbon footprint through regular business practices. And now, therefore, Solana Center for Environmental Innovation is recognized by the City of Encinitas as an award-winning environmental nonprofit. Hang on. Take two hands. An award-winning environmental nonprofit located in Encinitas, serving communities throughout San Diego County, offering sustainability, education focused on soil, water, and waste. And also now, therefore, the Encinitas branch of the San Diego County Library is recognized by the City of Encinitas as a vibrant hub of learning and community that was constructed with energy-efficient lighting, passive natural ventilation, and drought-tolerant landscaping, and is now committed to daily environmental stewardship and sustainability. And finally, and now, therefore, the Pacific Arts Center, the city's recently renovated public arts and cultural center, is recognized for sustainably repurposing a former elementary school building, including installing all electric appliances, electric vehicle charging, and drought-tolerant native landscaping as part of the renovation. This is dated 21st of January, 2026. And with that, I will go down one by one. Surf Dog? Right behind me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
Are we going to do pictures as we go, or
We can do it that way, and then do a big group shot at the end.
step up and smile for the camera?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, like
And-
this?
And hold that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there
We
you
don't
go.
get any awards. So.
All right. And one more just in case. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. And then I've got Encinitas Periodontics and Dental Implants. Congratulations. Yeah. Did you help? You helped, right? And Solana Center for Environmental Innovation. And in this case, are you guys back again? Yeah, yeah. So congratulations. Yeah. Thank you. And Encinitas Public Library. Thank you. Hold that, you get a picture. Smile for the camera. Excellent, thank you. And last but not least, Pacific View Art Center. And only one, huh? You couldn't get Dave up here or anybody else from the city? Congratulations, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. How about a round of applause? Now, would you like to say anything?
Okay, my wife Susie, I'm Dave. This is Carlos, our manager of the Surf Dogs Java Hut, and this is Scott Sain, the president of Surf Dog. So I'd just like to say we live in an incredibly special city. It's a gem. We feel so privileged, and when we rebuilt Surf Dog's whole unit, we really did try hard. A big part of Encinitas and the value to us is nature, being nature lovers, and not just the climate, but the beaches, and just, it's really part of the whole value of living here. So it really means something to get this. That's why it's very appreciated. We thank you. And we also hope it encourages other businesses maybe to do the same, because our planet needs it. So thanks very much, and thanks to all of you for doing what you do.
Okay, and who's next? I'll just go down the line.
I just want to say thank you for this recognition, and Pacific View Art Center takes sustainability very seriously. So thank you.
And Solana Center?
Solana Center for Environmental Innovation. I'm very fortunate to be the director and have all these wonderful folks I get to work with. But to be in the city of Encinitas is really phenomenal. Ryan took on spearheading the Green Business Program, did a great job. Look at all these incredible people. We're all about environment, so we're really just walking the talk, but to see these businesses that have gone above and beyond to do something outside of the scope of their programming is really phenomenal. So thank you very much for the recognition.
And Encinitas Periodontics?
Thank you, everyone. I think it's a great initiative. I'm just representing Dr. Bambi, who leads the periodontal office. I think two things I would say. One is the education level of the staff has really gone up because of this initiative. And second is our plastic usage has really gone down by more than 50%. So that was really good. And I want to say that Chamber has been very helpful, and all the people in Encinitas. We moved here 4 years ago, and the entire community has been very helpful. So thank you, Mayor, and thank you, staff.
Yeah, I do agree with my father, yes.
And the County Library?
On behalf of Encinitas Library, thank you, City of Encinitas, for this recognition. We are looking forward to continue taking proper care of the environment and offering the best customer service possible.
Thank you. I think I got everybody, right? We good? And unless the chamber wanted to say, so the goal is to have every chamber member up here someday, right? Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to the next proclamation, and thank you. Thank you. Did we want a one group picture?
Okay, I need, we think we're supposed to go up there? Into this space, so come on over. Sure, yeah.
Hey, Alex, let's get all the council in there.
Council, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot, yeah. It's going to be a crowded photo up here. Yeah.
Say, if you can't see my camera, I can't see you. So it's got, all right, ready? Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much.
We're all looking at each other like, do we go? Do we? May or may not be seen.
Okay. And the next is a presentation of CERT program update. And I'll recognize the Fire Chief Gordon.
Good evening, Mayor Ehlers, Deputy Mayor O'Hara, and council members, city staff, public. We are excited today to give you this presentation on our CERT program and bringing it back to the city. I think you all are aware that we went dormant with our CERT program for a little bit. We revamped it a little, and I did none of that work. I gave it all to Marie. So with that, I'm going to give the mic over to Marie, and she's going to give a presentation.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening, Mayor, council members, community members. I'm Marie Jones-Kirk. I am the emergency manager for the city, but as Chief shared, I'm also the CERT program manager. And I'm excited to talk about the return of our program. We took the program offline a couple years ago, and really the intent was to build it back better than the program that we had had for several years. So first I want to acknowledge, especially given the fact that Council just had a meeting previous to this going over their work plan. I just have to give a shout out that we actually have achieved this goal of getting this item completed for the work plan. And so that when I talk about this, you know, though I am the program manager, this really was a team effort with several staff throughout the city that allowed me to, you know, bring this back under the leadership of Chief Gordon. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the CERT program, it actually stands for Community Emergency Response Team. It's a FEMA program, so it's nationally supported, comes down here to the local level, and we are the sponsoring agency as the Encinitas Fire Department. So it's locally initiated, and then I, as the emergency manager, I'm the program manager for the CERT program. The Encinitas CERT program is made up of Encinitas residents. So as I often say is, I manage the program, but it really belongs to the city and to the community. And so the intention of this, and as we've been promoting this program, again, working with my team members here in the city to push it out through social media, our website, in just a multitude of ways. We've been recruiting and vetting all of our CERT members, you know, those who will be part of the academy, and I'll talk about that in a moment. So these are Encinitas residents, representation from our, you know, 5 major neighborhood areas throughout the city. And it's a broad range of personal and professional experience. So kind of some of that misperception, sometimes the CERT program is thought of as these are retired public safety or military background. And I'm like, it's a low bar. You have to be a minimum of 18 years old and an Encinitas CERT member. With that said, kind of that's the beauty of it is that we want to build up a cadre, and especially since the program's been offline for the last year, that really represents our community. So as I mentioned, the CERT Academy, we're going to be kicking that off on February 9th. It's going to be running for consecutive Monday evenings, and I'll show the schedule on the next slide. But it really is, these are interested residents had to apply. I've spoken to everybody that's applied, and I see a few people that will be here in the council chambers that will be part of the academy, so I'm excited for that. We cap it out at 25 people because we want to give that opportunity to really have people feel like they're giving of their time, their talents, their passion to serve their community. So we really kind of hold it to the 25 participants. And I apologize, I know right now it says we currently have 2 openings, but this has been a very popular program. So I think as of right now, I'm not sure if we have any openings, but if there's any committee members that are interested, I'm just gonna encourage you to reach out to me because I can put you on the waiting list for this year's academy, and if not, this is going to be an annual academy. I can look at getting you onto the wait list for next year. So we'll have a total of 9 classes. And what I'm really excited about, because this is a team effort between the fire department, the sheriff's department, and one of our community partners. So these are the subject matter experts. These are the people that actually do the fire, safety, they do light search and rescue. So it really is a cadre of our subject matter experts. But what's really important about the CERT program is that CERT members are really, the intention is not to train and then release, right? We want to build up a cadre of residents that can be there to support the community, the city, the fire department, what we call in blue sky moments. Nothing's going on. How do we ensure that we're ready? But also if something does happen, that we also have residents that can work alongside our fire department, our first responders, city staff. So you'll notice that CERT members don't replace what first responders do. That's not the intention of what CERT does. And kind of one of those things is that CERT can't self-activate or deploy. So the example I always use, if there's an accident up on El Camino Real or Encinitas Boulevard, CERT members can't put on their helmet, throw on their vest, run out, and respond. That's what our firefighters and our sheriff department team members do. So let me highlight the information, kind of what we go over in the CERT Academy. I think it's, and when we talk about CERT members, these are actually Encinitas volunteers. So these are people that are coming in, and it is quite a commitment that, community members make, because as you can see by the schedule, this is consecutive Mondays. We take President's Day off, but it's a 6 to 9 p.m. You come in, we kick it off with a disaster preparedness. We talk about disaster medical operations. We go over disaster psychology, just like the fire department. We're all hazards is the same thing with the CERT program. So you're not just focused on the fires or some of the major, incidents that could happen here in the city, but we really want, just like in the fire department, we want our personnel to be well-rounded. We also want our CERT members as well. So we talk about that disaster psychology. We look at light search and rescue. And again, as I mentioned, we're all hazards, so there's a component related to, kind of those man-made incidents that could happen, the terrorism and intelligence type incidents. And then we have that ability to be able to add in. We can't change the curriculum, but we add in radio communications. And that is really, at some point, and we'll talk about kind of what the future of the program is going to look like. The program had what we call auxiliary communications, or AUXCOM, associated with it, but our goal is to build that out so those CERT members that have their ham radio license will be able to have supplemental radio communications. So the path forward, what's the program going to look like? Told a little bit about kind of what it did look like, what the academy looks like. The goal is once they finish up with the academy, they actually get sworn in as disaster service workers. They become ambassadors for the CERT program, also on disaster preparedness, readiness. As I tell everybody who's coming into the academy, whatever their touch point in the community is, take that information, share that back out. Supplemental training, so we start with the basic training, but we provide supplemental training in shelter operations, temporary evacuation points. So if we do have to evacuate people out of an area and we need to get them someplace, we have CERT members that will work alongside the sheriff's department to provide level support to community members, or even if we're supporting neighboring jurisdictions. We're going to provide training also and have CERT members in our emergency operations center working alongside city staff. So if we have to open our operations center, we have that level of support from CERT members to do that. We'll have ongoing quarterly meetings, which there'll be other training. CPR is not currently, it's not part of that base training, but we'll be working on providing CERT members that additional training. And it's like what we call in the fire department that blue sky, everything's great moment. We can have CERT members come in and help us with readiness. So do we have our emergency preparedness and CERT supplies? Is it inventoried? Is it organized? So when something happens at 2 o'clock in the morning, we don't have to think about it, right? It's a grab and go type activity. And then, as I mentioned, that disaster and emergency support, and that can vary. It can be something small, it could be something large scale. And really, it's, again, kind of building this out. And then the ongoing support that CERT members can provide. As I mentioned, right now, those that are coming into our academy starting in February, they come with a really broad background and experience. And the nice thing about what we get to do as, you know, as a fire department is be able to utilize CERT members in different ways. As I said, CERT program support, emergency management support, and then there's also the exciting part where I look at the fire department support. So if, you know, my team members on the operations sides, they're doing drills or exercises, where might we be able to bring CERT members in to be able to train alongside or be able to support that type of training? So as Chief often said, and you've probably heard him say it from this very spot, is we really take an approach of crawl, walk, run. Right now, the CERT program is in that crawl phase. So some of the things that you see here on this path forward is really what we're looking at. By the end of this year, we will be able to implement these things. Granted, I always say this as emergency manager. We hope that we're not going to be doing that disaster and emergency support. We hope nothing happens. But if we do, we know that we will have 25 trained, ready Encinitas residents to be able to support that effort. And then this is just the motto. I just want to end with this because this really is the motto for the CERT program throughout the nation, which is doing the greatest good for the greatest number of people. And so we may say 25 people, what can they do? You know, when you think about it, we really are building out a really strong cadre of residents to be able to serve when needed, and that can be at the neighborhood level, at the city level, or in a broader conversation. With that, are there any questions from Mayor or Council?
Anybody have questions, comments?
Just no questions, just comment. Chief Gordon and I have talked about this program coming back basically since we first got in office, and I couldn't thank you enough for the speed to get here. I know it seems like it's not that long, that fast, a year gone by, but to get this back up and on its feet. In the crawl, walk, run model, what is the crawls in the 25 a year? Are we ever getting to a walk run that's a greater capacity for those that want? If we have the ability to teach more, that'd be great.
So thank you for that question. So right now is the crawl piece is really, let's get the academy started. Let's get people through that. And then we'll look at providing that other additional training. Right now, we are offering the academy once a year. In addition to my responsibilities for the CERT program, have other responsibilities under the emergency management umbrella. But it is my goal, and I always say I never like to overpromise and underdeliver, but I believe the items that we have here for 2026 are realistic, that we'll be able to make this the deliverables for this year, but also be able to build upon this. So that really is kind of the intention.
Awesome copy. And the follow-on question to that is, I know we talked about a youth program, or I'm not sure it's called CERT, if it's a different name, but I know that there was a youth model that getting into the schools and getting into the high school, junior highs, where they're able to kind of start to learn this stuff at an earlier age, where it becomes kind of more a part of their development, not just their later in life certification kind of model.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think the more we can reach out to our community members at any age, the better our community is going to be prepared and be able to serve, right? So right now we have a new administrative captain coming in on January 27th, and he's going to be reaching out to our school districts to create or to see what bandwidth there is in the school districts to create a program where we can come in and provide all of that information. We're going to start with fire safety and water safety with the elementary schools. As we go to the junior highs, we'll stick with the fire safety, but then hit a little bit more of like what our jobs are and what we do. And then as you get to the high school, we're gonna start doing more of like job fairs, reach out to some of the sports teams and do more active and mechanical skills with them to see if they want to come over to the fire service at some point. There's been a lot of talk lately about us trying to do a lifeguard to firefighter program, go from junior lifeguards and try to get that group of kids excited for the lifeguards and fire service as well. So come January 27th, we'll be reaching out to our school districts to kind of move that forward.
Phenomenal. I think I would invite you to the school board liaison meeting that both Jim and I chair. So it'd be a good spot to start with all the superintendents and actually some of the decision makers in the room. But I think this program is it's a community centric type program, and what it can do it can ignite the fire under the figurative fire into the community, and it's a way to keep us connected. So I really appreciate all the effort. So thank you guys.
Got it.
Deputy Mayor O'Hara.
I'm really excited to see this come forward today and really appreciate the great presentation. And I know this is something from day one that has been a priority, and it's been really interesting, to hear the conversations along the way, see it grow, and see it get to this point where it's ready to launch is really exciting. Even if we want to call this a crawl now, I think this is, compared to where we were last year, we're running pretty good, and this is great. Couple of quick questions regarding how does this program compare to our neighboring cities, would you say?
Well, currently, and I will share this, I actually came from the neighboring city to the north. So I would say most cities have a CERT program, and similar, I would say, to ours. It was, a few years back, it was kind of a duty as assigned, type activity. But I think you're seeing more and more where communities are recognizing the benefit of having a CERT program and where CERT can serve. So, I'm seeing it come much more into that emergency management, into the fold, and into kind of an planning and response, and even to some extent on the recovery side.
I'm going to add on to that just a little bit. And when I was first battalion chief, this has got to be right at COVID. I don't know if you guys heard about Operation Collaboration, and that was where they were providing the vaccine to those that wanted to come get a vaccine. And Marie was in charge of the CERT program there at the Operation Collaboration that we had in Carlsbad. And I will tell you there was a night and day difference between the CERT program we had in Encinitas at that point and the CERT program that was happening in Carlsbad. And that's when I knew we had to adjust something. And so with her leadership now and what I saw in the past, and kind of one of the reasons we brought her over here was because of that, that organization and really the professionalism that we saw in that old CERT or Carlsbad CERT program. So we now have one that will mimic or be better than maybe the top 3 cities worth of CERT programs in here. And that's thanks to Marie and all the staff that's worked with her. So I just want to throw it out there.
That's fantastic. And then just out of curiosity, you go through the course 1 year, and then is there a continuing ed cycle? Is there a cert class?
There is not a cert class, that's tough to say. But there is an expectation that when people come through the academy, that they're going to stay engaged. So when we do the supplemental training, that they're going to attend those quarterly meetings and they're going to be engaged. But I'm respectful that some of the CERT members, as I like to say, they have full-time adult jobs. So that really is that expectation because we want to keep their skills sharp. So what will happen is people, when we get to Academy for 2027, if I have CERT members who came through the Academy in 2026 and they want to sit in on any of those units, they're more than welcome to do that. So it allows them to sharpen their skills and continue to be relevant with the CERT program.
Super. I look forward to supporting this going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember San Antonio.
I'm very excited for this program. In my reserve firefighter role in Orange County, we definitely had a CERT program as well. I definitely saw the benefits it brought to the community. One, people wanted to be engaged. People wanted to be a part of something. It helped the community. I know you said it was a lot of people from different parts of Encinitas, so those districts or boroughs or whatnot, whatever you want to call them, it's those people that can help in those certain areas, in those smaller areas. It's not necessarily Encinitas as a whole, but I'll leave behind. It's that little pocket of if there's other people in there as well that are in the CERT program. I know in Orange County when we'd have little pockets of people, it was for a specific issue, job, whatever it was. It was nice to see the community come together, 1. 2, people were very engaged. They wanted to learn. They wanted to be a part of it. So I'm definitely excited for it. I'm definitely excited for what this program can and will be in the future. You have my full support. I'm excited for the Academy as well. So,
thank you.
And I'll hop in here. I think most of my questions have been asked and answered, so I appreciate that. I think this is great. I really appreciate bringing it in more formally under the city umbrella, under the fire department's umbrella. I think that will make it that much better than it was. And not that it was bad before, but I think the discipline and the certification is critical, and really integrating it with the fire department. So with that said, I think we will move on. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
The next item is oral comments, and oral comments are public comments for items that are not on tonight's agenda. We allocate up to 30 minutes for oral communication at the beginning of our regular meetings. Speakers typically are granted 3 minutes to address the council with no time donations permitted, and the chair has the authority to limit the duration of these comments so long as it's done equitably to all speakers. How many do we have?
We have 10.
Oh, gee, 10 times 3, 30 minutes. So we'll go with all 10 and with 3 minutes each.
And I'll call you up 3 at a time. First 3 speakers, Steve Quartz, followed by Jeff Warner, and then Beth Whitaker.
So who is the on deck, sir? Who goes first?
Steve.
Oh, that's me.
And speak into the mic so we can get you on tape.
Gotcha. Good evening. My name is Steve Quartz. I'm here to request traffic safety improvements on South Willow Spring Drive between Encinitas Boulevard and Cerro Street. Not long ago, I witnessed a senior resident walking their dog on this stretch of road nearly get hit by a speeding car. It was terrifying to watch, and it could have easily resulted in a serious injury or worse. That moment made it very clear that this road is not as safe as it should be. This section of South Willow Spring Drive runs directly through a senior living community and alongside a golf course. It is heavily used by pedestrians, especially seniors who walk daily for exercise and companionship with their pets. Despite a clearly posted 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, many drivers routinely exceed it, particularly when traveling eastbound after stopping at Cerro Street. It's basically like somebody dropped a green flag. When a motorcycle officer is present, drivers are frequently ticketed, which shows that speeding there is not occasional, it's a consistent and recognized problem. There are already 3 speed bumps between Cerro Street and El Camino Real, yet there are none between Cerro and Encinitas Boulevard, even though this is a longer stretch of road that is more straight and has significantly more pedestrian traffic. That inconsistently, unintentionally encourages drivers to speed. There is also a serious visibility hazard when driving westbound at Country View entrance, where the sun can completely blind drivers at certain times of day. A stop sign here at this location would greatly reduce the risk of serious accident. With new housing nearing completion, traffic volume will only increase. We should address these issues now before someone is seriously injured or killed. We respectfully ask the city to install speed bumps between Encinitas Boulevard and Cerro Street and a stop sign at Country View entrance to protect residents and improve safety for everyone. Thank you for your time and consideration.
And could I also refer you to staff so that they can give you get the input to them directly and also get it to the Traffic Commission?
Sure. Thank you.
Jeff?
All right. Oops. I don't know the protocol here. Can I approach the bench, so to speak? I have a handout. I made 6. I'm sorry. I didn't realize how far down it went. Okay. First of all, my name is Jeff Warner. I'm the president of Sandalwood Homeowners Association in Encinitas, up by the Encinitas Ranch Golf Course, but more importantly for this discussion, right next to the Levenhain Water Tower, up where the proposed Zona Gale Estates, the most oxymoron of titles of ever, project is being proposed. We, the Homeowners Association, have amassed over 75 signatures between ourselves and neighboring HOAs to stop this crazy development. I tell you a little bit about myself. I'm using up my time, but I've been an Encinitas resident for 25 years. I've been a Boy Scout troop leader. I've been a Little League coach at ELL. I've helped beach cleanups. My son went to to LCC, played on Machado State winning championship team. And Luke, of course, our whole family voted for you. And where I'm going with this is that I've seen Encinitas change a lot for the good. But unfortunately, in the last year or two, we've had one big problem, and it's our housing.
The previous administration, I'll say, and council perhaps, members, swung the pendulum way too far to the left. They more or less rubber stamped Sacramento loopholes and aggressive developers who put in, 1,000 units on Quail Gardens Drive? That'll be several thousand people into that very small congested area. Now another developer is looking to exploit yet again another loophole from Sacramento laws and bulldoze about 1.8 acres next to the water tower and put in 9 homes jammed in there. You can see from the map. The Coast News ran an excellent story on this. We're going to lose our trail, Encinitas Public Trails, which my HOA and myself and my son have gone and pruned bushes and things to maintain safety for bikers, people using those trails. They'll be gone. We also have a lot of safety issues for the residents of that area. If you look at the logo behind you, there's those bluffs, the sandstone bluffs. A lot of these homes are right on the edge of that bluff. Every time it rains, that bluff erodes back. But more importantly, I just want to draw your attention to what our community is about. Mayor, for the first 15 minutes today, we just embraced open space, green land, nature, all the green things our city does. This developer is going to propose bulldozing a couple acres of land for one medium low-income home. What are the benefits, what are the costs of doing all that damage for one home when half a mile down the road there's 1,000 units being put down on Quail Gardens Drive? We respectfully submit that you stop this development and or bring it back to the planning committee. I looked on the latest agenda for the city. There is no planning committee meeting in the next couple of weeks. Usually they're on Thursdays. I couldn't find one conveniently. This has been a stealth project sent through the area, and we respect that you either cancel it or bring it back for public comment. As far as we know, there's been no citizens program plan for it. I reached out to the member, the leader of that. I haven't heard back yet. And lastly, I hate to do this, but you can
Thank you.
on this.
Sorry. Got to cut you off there at 3 minutes. Okay, thank you.
Following Beth Whitaker will be Wes Seacrest, followed by Scott Campbell, and then Ellen Burr.
Good evening, Council. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, a doctor of behavioral health, and I'm your neighbor. Many council decisions are shaped by values, and we have passionate council members. They're so passionate that they have made statements that they will take up arms in order to defend land from undesirable development. And we've heard statements of that the sheriffs work for me. Okay, this is the passion that we want from our council members, right? We have not heard council use that same passion and being willing to take up arms or make emphatic statements about power to defend our neighbors from ICE, or stand with us in protest of human rights violations and due process violations in our city. Today, in a time when the U.S. has more people in inhumane immigration camps than were detained in Germany just before World War II in concentration camps, this is not the time for neutrality. We deserve to know from your own proud voices what you believe, whether you oppose or endorse the MAGA agenda. To reduce speculation and build trust, I'm asking each council member to disclose opposition or endorsement of current ICE violence in Encinitas, and whether you personally identify as MAGA. This isn't about policing beliefs. It would give residents context, just like financial disclosures do. I've overheard in the community that the men on the council are closeted Proud Boys. My response to that is, we don't know that. But if you're not willing to openly share your beliefs, you leave us wondering what you're hiding. We deserve transparency and accountability in our government, and I hope that you take this to heart and share who you really are for the community so we can make our own decisions about who we vote for. Thank you.
Council members and Bruce Ehlers, before I begin, I want to note that I sent an email to the full council right after the new year documenting the flooding that is at my home. The email went unanswered for 13 days, but I did write back a second time, and thank you, Luke, for responding to that email. You gave me some context and some constraints about drainage. I'm here again for the second time affecting the flooding that is affecting my home in the North Hermes area that remains unresolved. When it rains, runoff from the street flows directly into our driveway and yard with no drainage infrastructure to mitigate it. Multiple properties in our area flood repeatedly, even during relatively mild rains. City staff has addressed that it is a known well problem location, but there's still no solution being pushed forward. Next photo, please. Even now, weeks later, I'm cleaning up the most recent rains. There is a swampy smell. Mosquitoes have found a new home, and brooms and shovels only superficially help the remnants. Next photo, please. During the rains on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, the flooding was so severe that we were effectively confined to our home. Water outside our doors reached shin-deep levels, making it unsafe to leave. On New Year's Eve, we had guests who were staying 3 blocks away, yet we had to call them an Uber to get home so they wouldn't have to walk through the standing water and ruin their clothes and shoes. On top of all this, I am out there at all hours of the night connecting submersible pumps with extension cords, hoping that I don't get electrocuted. This is absolutely unacceptable. Next photo, please. I'm asking that you make drainage infrastructure a priority in this budget that I know you're discussing very soon. I see that there is over a $20 million increase from property taxes and tax revenue and more. Now is the time to address something that most of you ran on as an agenda item. This is an active issue affecting resident safety, creating unsanitary conditions and quality of life right now. We are simply asking the ability to leave our homes and function during rain and protect our property from repeated flooding. Next photo. Or is that it? That's it. Thank you guys for your time and consideration. I'm asking that you address it.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening, Council. My name is Scott Campbell. I live in Encinitas District 1, and I believe I've seen some of that flooding. I've seen the hoses. They're 100 feet long. I've seen the pumps on the street. I don't know what the answer is, but I do know that recent work by the tracks has helped. It doesn't fix everything, but it has helped. That meeting earlier tonight was pretty good. It was pretty good. It's good to get news, but you know what's better than getting good news is using it to get reelected. I know there's been some meetings this week about Pacific View, and one of the goals is to engage the community. And this is kind of a joke, but it's somewhat serious. It's a perfect place for daddy daycare. I know we have lots of adults with young children, and they need stuff to do on the weekends. I heard this. We can have a daddy daycare out. You can fill in the blanks of what that is. I like the comments about outdoor dining earlier. You know, that's one of my big things. It kind of caught the staff and everybody by surprise, and if we're going to keep it, get on top of it. We were known for waiting till the last second, so that was good. The meeting went over. You guys got to move to Zoom or Teams or something and have time slots, and the meetings end at 5, and you got to move to the next meeting. I mean, that's how businesses do it. Back to that meeting at 4, though. I don't ever remember that quality of information and focused discussion in the past. In 2023, what was the big talk about? The council was talking about bike racks and how these projects with bike racks is going to solve projects. And now we're hearing about CERT. I think this is a really positive change for the city. All these development projects, we heard about some of them, they have compounded costs. And for long term, these projects have use of services. We need to plan for that. We have limited public areas. We talked about Moonlight Beach. All these people live right up the street from there. They can walk to there. Moonlight Beach isn't getting better. We need to, this is something to consider about limited public areas and what we can do to make more. All these projects, we heard about traffic. Last week, I heard the mayor say it's hard to get here. It's increased stress on the roads. Why is this? Solana Beach has good traffic. Carlsbad has good traffic. Why are our traffic so much stressful? We've had the same population, but its traffic seems worse. I've got some ideas on that, and we'll keep going on that. all these developments have more trips. And if people are staying home, it's more trips, it's delivery drivers and everything. We really need to add this. I saw this earlier, consideration of roads and public infrastructure as part of developments. Thank you. Just think about this.
Following Ellen Burr, the final four speakers, Terry Skelly, Diana Cutlow, Teresa Beauchamp, and Dave Dean.
Good evening, Council. It's amazing how two people can listen to the same thing and come up with different observations. Outdoor dining. I was very surprised to hear that this is now on an ongoing, no end in sight schedule, when I just read the other day that Solana Beach had passed second reading, new ordinance for outdoor dining and single double lot division and ADUs. Yes, whatever it is, the parking thing may have become effective January 1st, but that is certainly not when it would have been chaptered and become law. I cannot believe that Mayor Huebner would have passed something last week that will now have to be modified. In the same vein, we've been waiting for years for an updated short-term rental policy, which I think is going on 3 years now. So I don't know what is happening with that. Affordable housing. I distinctly remember members of this council raking Planning Commission over the coals for having the temerity to establish a subcommittee on affordable housing when it was actually in your plan, but it was okay to add a surfing and skateboarding activities to an already established work plan for parking. At any rate, there is a long, extensive report that members of the Planning Commission did on affordability, affordable housing, which I think before we go out and spend another $250K, it would behoove staff and council members to read that, because a lot of time went into that. I think Mr. Prendergast would be happy to present it to a full council or a special meeting. So please, let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's not wait till the last minute. Let's tick things off that need to be ticked off. And finally, there was something this afternoon at the 4 o'clock meeting. Is there a RENA subcommittee? It's in the list. Maybe I missed it. Thank you.
Terry?
Yeah.
Good evening, Encinitas City Council, Mayor Ehlers. My name is Terry Ann Skelly. I'm a parent and public health educator with San Diego Alliance for Drug-Free Youth. We are concerned about the impact of pot shops on young adults of our city and the billboards that dot the roadways, especially near Miracosta College. I'd like to share some observations from a well-known podcast called Dreamland, hosted by Sam Kionis, who's a substance abuse counselor. He said recently, and I quote, "There's a lesson that I thought the opioid epidemic had taught us, which I believe was this: beware of drugs that are 1, legal, 2, highly potent, 3, made widely available, with 4, unfound claims of the risk-free nature, and perhaps most important, promoted, marketed by profit-motivated groups or corporations." This description goes a long way to describe our marijuana industry today. Pot capitalism has transferred weed into a hyper-potent mutation bearing no resemblance of the naturally grown plant. Research states that when youth grow up in communities where marijuana consumption is flaunted through the presence of marijuana storefronts, their perception of risk of using it and other drugs will be muted. San Diego Alliance knows, and public health knows, that preventing young people from initiating drug use gives them the best chance at fulfilling their potential. Perhaps the city could and should reduce or eliminate this exposure and availability here in Encinitas. Thank you for your consideration tonight.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mary Lears Council. I'm Diana Cutlow with Senator Blake Spear's office. Happy 2026. Good to see you all. Senator Blake Spear closed out 2025 by hosting a law enforcement roundtable. Participants included DA Summer Steffen, Sheriff Kelly Martinez, Captain Watts, San Diego City Attorney Heather Ferbert, local police chiefs, the CHP commander, and more. They discussed priorities and challenges, including the need to increase funding for Prop 36, which requires mental health and other services that are currently not funded. They also discussed the need to standardize e-bike regulations in the state, which I know is important to the city of Encinitas, and the senator has authored a bill on this issue that we're working on right now, so we'd welcome your input. The senator kicked off the new year by handing out reusable grocery bags to highlight the implementation of her bill that was passed in 2024 with the support of the Grocers Association to ban plastic bags at checkout in grocery stores and pharmacies. The impact on reducing plastic waste is especially important in coastal areas, and the work will continue. The legislature reconvened on January 5th for the second half of its two-year term. In addition to dealing with a state budget deficit, decisions will be made about bills remaining from last year and the agenda for the coming year. The deadline for new bills to be submitted is February 20th, so any feedback would be appreciated before that. The senator plans to introduce 5 new bills for a total of 17 this year, plus a Senate resolution to recognize the 250th birthday of the United States of America. Some of the bills that may be of interest to Encinitas include increasing interim housing to address unsheltered homelessness, banning the sale of larger nitrous oxide 2 canisters. I know this is important to the San Diego Alliance for Drug-Free Youth here at Encinitas, and that's because of serious consequences of recreational use. We're seeing more traffic accidents, and many of those include fatalities. Improving coordination between military and civilian law enforcement agencies to expand protections for survivors of domestic violence. This is in coordination with the Department of Defense. And the senator, based on community input, is opposing SB 677 as the bill is written, just as she opposed SB 79, which permits more density near certain transit stops. I look forward to sharing all of Encinitas' positions on legislation and budget requests with the senator this session. In the district, our office is accepting nominations for Women Who Inspire in celebration of Women's History Month. You can make nominations on our website. And lastly, this Saturday, January 24th, we'll be discussing in the Our California Book Club a really interesting book on California history. Tells us a lot about how we got to where we are. It's called Golden State, The Making of California by Michael Hitzik, and I'd welcome you all to read it and hopefully join the conversation. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mayor Ehlers, council members, and city manager, Jennifer, and staff. I'm here to follow up on the Safe Parking Program status, and I'm hoping to get an update on that. I just noticed the agenda for next week. It is not agendized. I'm a little concerned about that, so hoping to get an update and hoping our families that were using that program and when the deadline hit at December 31st, that they got the resources that they need in this transition time. It is a critical part of our homeless action plan, and I'm hoping that we will continue it locally in Encinitas. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Jennifer. Dave Dean, and I'm here to talk a little bit about the Rock Garden. First of all, I'd like to give a shout out to Captain Watts. He has gotten some of the homeless activity off of the streets, although now the problem comes a little deeper and we got to go into the bushes and get some more people that are camped out there. So I spoke with him on that, and he'll be doing that, I'm sure. As far as the Rock Garden goes, I would like to thank Friends of the Library for their continued support of keeping the library small library stocked. They do a great job, and we're trying to promote literacy in the Rock Garden, so please come by and pick up a book and have a good read. About a month ago, I stood before you and showed you a picture of what I determined was the most dangerous pothole in the city. That continues to grow and get bigger. I have a picture of me swallowed up in the manhole, so it is a man-eater. If you go to the garden, please be careful. The pothole is extremely dangerous and getting worse. Maria, if you're around, if there's 2 slots left for the cert, I would like to have my name put on one of those slots. That would be great. And other than that, thank you for your support for everyone. You guys are doing a great job with our city. It continues to get better, so look forward to that. Have a great day.
That concludes speakers for oral communication.
And our next item would be report from closed session, but we did not hold one. And that moves us on to item 7, changes to agenda.
Mayor, there are no changes to the posted agenda, and moving to the consent calendar, items 8J and 8N have been removed by Mayor Ehlers.
Okay, and are there any, nothing by the public?
Nothing has been removed by the public.
Okay, and any items that anybody else would want to pull? With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve everything but 8J and 8N.
Moval to approve the consent calendar, everything but 8N and 8J.
I'll second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Call the question.
Motion carries unanimously, and it takes us to item 8J.
Okay. Let's see. This one I just had I don't think I need a staff report. I just had questions about the contract and well, first of all, did we go out to bid for this, or how did it work?
So we went out to bid for the contractor. So the contractor's essentially in place to do beach work, such as the scoop program. So here we're basically just adding monies so they can physically do this specific scoop permit to that contract. So it's just really the one-time job.
Now the scoop program, it's not just the scoop program. The contract originally was for the berm at Moonlight Beach and various other beach maintenance type, moving sand, that type of stuff.
Right.
And that was for $90,000 typically for 1 year, right?
For over 3 years, yeah.
Over 3 years, even better. And so this now is going from 90,000 or about 30,000 a year up to 350, so a 10x. That's why I'm wondering. It seems expensive. The other question is, does the developer that's providing the sand for the scoop program, are they delivering the sand to Moonlight Beach, and then this contractor takes it up the beach, right, during avoiding tide, et cetera?
Correct.
So this is $350,000 to move 9,400 cubic yards of sand from Moonlight Beach up to just north of Beacons, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Do we have any comparison on a similar project we might have done on what it would cost per cubic yard? It just seems high.
It's comparable. I mean, just grading and hauling is expensive.
Yeah.
So this is fairly cheap. I mean, nominal considering. So, I mean, we can get a comparison, but they're already in place essentially to do the work. The grading job is supposed to start here probably mid-February.
Yeah.
So we're kind of.
And don't get me wrong, I support putting the sand as close to Beacons as we can get it, so we can get that footing of the landslide area there.
Sure.
And obviously, we've done a lot to the south, 200 yards south, with the USACE nourishment we did in 2024. Now to put another low, and that spread naturally through intertidal up and helped Beacons, and now putting 10,000 just north of Beacons as close as we can within the certified drop area. That'll be good. So I support this. It struck me that we didn't really look at, it seems like so much bigger than the standard project. I was wondering whether we should have, or maybe in the future, we should take this out for bid. And, I could save 10%, 20%, that would be huge compared to the budget.
Sure, and in the future, I mean, this was kind of one of the early condition projects. So a lot of the conditions that are in the newer projects do have the developer essentially paying that cost. This one wasn't structured that way. So the newer projects that we will see come online, ideally they would be paying a contractor or our contractor to haul, depending on where we want to place it.
And so would that have been something that when the Planning Commission approved the project, going forward, if we're better at it, we would make sure we get it delivered to whatever target point we want to put it?
Correct, and that's how the conditions are basically written.
Okay.
Moving forward.
And obviously, I think I was on the Planning Commission when this project was approved. It goes back 3 or 4 or 5 years, something like that. So,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
So can you do one thing for me? Make sure you let the Planning Commission chair and the planning commissioners know that they should be asking for this. And of course, obviously, staff knows. So, okay. Do you want me to make a motion to approve? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve. And then
I'm just going to price. I'm curious, and it kind of brings up some questions. I know certainly there are municipalities that have the equipment and do this themselves, and obviously that would save an extensive amount of money. And so I'm curious, have we ever looked at just amortizing this over time and what it would be, whether it makes more sense to just buy some of this equipment, use it for multiple purposes, and save $350,000 a year plus whatever projects we do, because we're not going to stop doing this as far as I can tell.
Oh, wow.
So I'm just curious. I know Huntington Beach does stuff like this. A lot of the cities in LA do it. East Coast, if you look at all over New Jersey, New Hampshire, they're moving sand annually. And they just use their own equipment. It's their own public works group. And it seems like we could do the same long-term thought. Maybe that some version of looking into that, and obviously not tonight, but down the road with some thought of like, if this is where we're going to go, maybe we need to look at the role of the city in doing it ourselves and saving ourselves some money.
sounds like a great topic for February 2nd and 3rd. So, and I understand that time is of the essence. We want to keep the sand in Encinitas, get it there. So I can go forward with this, but I wanted to understand how we got here, and going forward, it sounds like we should be more disciplined in how we get our conditions attached to the project approvals that have this opportunity, and many of them do. Right, many of the big projects have sizable amounts of sand. And just to put things in perspective, this is 9,400 cubic yards of sand. When we did the nourishment, it was in the hundreds of thousands of cubic yards of sand. So it's not going to be a huge change out there, but right at Beacons is a very, very crucial place to put sand right now to support that seawall, to protect that seawall. And whatever we can put there, we should.
Second your motion.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. With that, we will call the question.
That motion carries unanimously and takes us to item 8N.
And again, I don't need a staff report on this. I support this work 100%. This is something I campaigned on, several of us campaigned on, and that's getting the drainage inspected and fixed. I only pulled it because I want it done faster. And let me tell you why. Because when I looked at the schedule and page 27, or no, where was the schedule? Schedule's in there, page 23. It was going to come to council in February of 2027. And that's a long time from now, or at least to me, it's a long time from now. And it would behoove us to get it here, get it up to council, not did I say February? Sorry, July of 27. Sorry, I said the wrong. I want it in February. And so if it's possible to get this plan and the information done quicker, sooner, even if it costs 10% more, it would be worth it. Why? Because I want to get into the budget cycle, and I want to know where I'm going or the future council will want to know where they are going in probably January, February of 2027. They can allocate money, but the more they know, the more gravitas the need will be if they know that, hey, we inspected all of our 1960 and 1950 corrugated metal drainage, and 50% of them are collapsing right now. And we've already started to see sinkholes occur on major drainage areas during any of the major rainstorms, the one on Lake Street being the biggest one and costing us well over $2 million. So this is something we want to get ahead of. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I'd love to hear your response on doing it faster.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor, appreciate that. Dan Nutter, Director of Engineering. So that is something that when we were negotiating a scope and fee with the selected consultant, we did take into consideration. We asked the question, what would the cost be, relatively speaking, to get this done as quickly as possible? And the reality is, with a project like this, a condition assessment for a storm drain facility, there are two main elements to a condition assessment. The first element is doing a physical inspection of every single foot of storm drain infrastructure we have. We have 65 miles of pipe. Over half of the duration for this contract is just the manpower to get people out into the field. They are camera crews that have to set up in the street. We place cameras within the CCD cameras within the pipelines, and we do inspections of every foot of pipe. So it would cost us roughly 25% more to expedite that portion of work. So from a rough order of magnitude, instead of $750,000 base contract amount, we'd probably be looking closer to about $900,000. And that would save us probably in the magnitude of 3 to 5 months. So when we were looking at that, we didn't feel as though, as staff, the bang for the buck was there, which is why we recommended the schedule and contract that we have. We're happy to go back to our consultant and look at this and present them the option of making sure it gets done faster at that roughly 25% higher cost, if that's something council would like to move forward with. The second part of a condition assessment, sorry, I kind of jumped ahead, is doing the actual modeling and risk calculation associated with the condition of the pipe. So that is a fairly lengthy process. When this was completed for the wastewater division in the utilities department, just the modeling aspect took over a year. So it is something that everything, I guess every task associated with a condition assessment, it's pretty darn involved. And because of the iterative process with staff, with our public works team, because we have to have a lot of the actual in-field staff as well, it's just lengthy. So again, about 25% cost increase to reduce probably about 5 months or so.
Okay. I'm going to finish up my comments and questions, and I'm going to recognize the city manager, then I'll go down the list of council members. One of the things I think as the videotaping occurs, we are going to see, we already know we have collapsing pipes out there, and when they collapse, they cost at least twice as much to repair as opposed to doing the concrete lining. And I would suspect that this contractor, we could work with them to have like early findings of the top 10 list, you know, the worst top 10 that they've seen to date, and that we could allocate money and get going on fixing them now, because it's a time bomb out there, right? We've seen them start to fail. They're 50 to 60 years old, and they're gradually failing over time. And so what I'm looking for is a way to, let's say, pre-start the funding and pre-start the worst fix. I don't have to optimize to know that I've got a lot of bad ones. I just need to get on the really bad ones before they collapse and my price doubles to repair. So that's the idea I'm throwing out there. That's my request. You said it's $800,000 or seven. How much?
The entire contract is about $750,000.
Okay. And you're saying an extra $150 to knock 5 months off.
Exactly.
And what we have to weigh against that is how many failures will we have in that 5 months?
Now, and Mr. Mayor, to your point, now something that we absolutely can do is through the process of having these physical inspections, I mean, the reality is we know we have a lot of bad pipe in the ground. We are going to be finding pipe that needs to be rehabilitated. That's a certainty. Part of this report is prioritizing where we're going to allocate our money. Now, what we're going to do is our plan is to inspect what we anticipate to be the most high priority areas first. Those would be storm drain systems under prime arterials, things of that nature, that if we do have a failure, it's really affecting a lot of our city. So I would love if we do start knocking out some of the inspections of what we consider those high priority systems. If we start seeing needs there, we would be happy to start addressing those with capital projects. The only risk that we have from a council standpoint is we may not be seeing necessarily the worst case pipes or the highest risk pipes early on in that identification process. So it's a little bit of a balancing act. To do it the quote-unquote best way would be to get all of the information, have your plan in place, but that's not always the world that we live in, right? Sometimes we need to start knocking off some of these high priority projects and start getting some of these pipes repaired. So we would be absolutely in favor of doing repair projects as we're identifying more of these needs.
Yeah, and just to recap some of our previous conversations, both here in the chambers and outside, the life expectancy for the concrete line done without digging up is like 75 years, right? So it's roughly equivalent to burying a new concrete pipe. So one of the things, by catching it before it collapses, we're really saving half the cost of digging up. The other thing that you educated me on, I appreciate, is the fact that none of these are pure liners. You're going to find spots that need to be dug up because they're collapsing, and those become your entry spots to then line the adjacent. So we have multiple years, 5, 10 years of, I'll call it deferred maintenance, because that's really what it's been. Because we haven't been lining them. We've been doing, I think the budget has been $250,000 a year for the last, as long as I can remember. And it's mostly been consumed by fixing problems, not proactively lining. And so we need to switch modes, and doing the study is very important. Doing it quickly, because we're starting to see, we have been seeing failures for years now. We're seeing more failures as the rain ramps up, as we get worse and worse rainstorms. So I would consider adding $150,000 to do this 5 months earlier, because I think in that same 5 months we could have failures that could cost us millions, and that's bad. But with that, I'm going to recognize the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So just looking at the timeline, Dan, it looks like most of the visual inspection and research and review is done by January of 2027. So we generally go into budget, Mayor. We do our first budget workshops in March. So what we have is we have a 5-year capital improvement program. So if council even wanted during this budget season, you can start putting money away. I mean, if you think about it, we've got a housing element coming up, and we actually have the housing element budgeted in 2 years so that it's not one in lump sum. So we have in the past done storm drain repair. And it actually did, I think it went to 500 at one point, because we did decide to finally double.
It was zero the next year or the year before, and then 500. So it averaged 250.
It averaged 250. So we know we're going to find pipes in poor condition. We know that. And we're going to find fair, and we're going to find good, and we're going to start with the worst first. But if council so desires, knowing that's coming up, that's actually what a capital improvement program is that you actually know, you're like, we have drainage issues. You've got roads that have to be paved, because you look at our pavement program, we always put that money away. So we can start as early as this fiscal year, depending on when you go into your budget workshops. You can already start this week if council desires to. But I'm thinking if we can get through, if we have a lot of the information by January, February, we could definitely put some money away for that, because again, we'll have to see where budget lies and how much we have for CIP. But that could just be a thought as well. Instead of necessarily spending 150 up front right now, I think we might have a good idea before we go into a budget workshop. May not have all the final reports. And then we will need to budget some money for repairs that we know. And for instance, I think mid-year we're going to have to bring back something we need a little bit more money for a budget repair. It's not a complete failure and bad, but we need a little more money. So just a thought for budget.
Okay, Councilmember Schaefer.
Yeah, my biggest thing is, and it's just to reiterate, is budget cycle, and we got to get in front of that and get started. And the fact is we picked up the city as it was already running by the county, so we've been building it as we fly it all along. So let's not change the model until we get in front of it. And so we're going to have to build this as we fly it, so to speak. So I personally I'm dedicated to doing something this year, budget-wise. I know that we all are, but this is to back it up so that we have all the exact stuff so we can start getting in front of the bigger budget issue of the whole city, the whole 65 miles. So.
And when you say this year, you mean 26, 27?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct, because we need it. I mean, we're going to have West Seacrest and the Miller family back up here, and we kind of already know the bad areas for the most part. They self-show themselves, as we go along. So, thanks,
Okay.
Dan.
Councilmember Lyons.
Yeah, I like the way this discussion is going. We all know we have a big infrastructure need in our community, and we've begun to identify what that is over the last 5 years. And I think $150,000 is a lot of money, so I want to try to find out a way, and I can see that there is, that we can take the pulse of this at stages in this first 12 months of the contract. I would like your input, Dan, whether that's possible, reading through between the lines what you just said. I think perhaps if we let the consultant know that there'll be points along in the process where we'll want to know what they're finding and whether there's anything that rises to the top of us needing to address immediately, because we are concerned about it. And say in the first 4 months they do discover something, well, we want to know that as soon as possible. And we can take action on it by setting some money aside, as our city manager said. So is that possible to manage this in a way where we just get that information on a very time-sensitive basis?
Yeah, so Councilman Lyons, that's exactly what we would be doing anyway. So, this is going to be something that we are going to be working daily with our consultant and getting updates on what our infrastructure is physically looking like. And, the year-long process is to gather all of the physical information, but we're going to have, 3 months in, a lot of good information, all right? Now, doing the full condition assessment and prioritization, that might take the year and a half, but in the first 3 to 6 months, we'll have a good idea of, at a minimum, where money can start being, capital can start being expended. So I guess I and our team are happy to go either direction, meaning with the current schedule and costs that we have recommended to council, or with adding roughly $150,000 in expediting. I would also be a proponent of taking that $150,000 that we would utilize to expedite the report and putting that into our maintenance fund, so that way in FY27 we actually can utilize that extra money for more maintenance work.
And I know we talked about this in my briefing. I think our maintenance work is actually a part of what we should be aware of and talk more about. Maybe that's something we can be prepared to talk about in strategic planning, because there's a lot we could do in that maintenance program that's not a capital improvement, but we can understand where there's some serious issues and attack it right away. And in my view, that's part of our understanding of how to prioritize our money as far as our drainage system. So, Mayor, thanks for bringing this up, and I think I like the way that we could head forward without having to spend the $150,000 at this juncture, but to take the pulse of where the contract is going and what's being revealed along the way, and be responsive to it.
Okay, Deputy Mayor O'Hara.
So I think everybody's making great comments, and clearly it's a matter of balancing what the needs are and the dollars. And I think everybody's kind of in alignment with where we're going and being proactive in this, and eventually getting to your point, ahead of the, building the ship ahead of flying it. So within that, I don't really want to put $150,000 into this immediately this year extra. I'd love to put it to the maintenance plan, but I want to ask about a model in which we could do that. And so when we go out and we do repair like Cardiff, I think we've spoke about Cardiff up here before, the council's done a public meeting. We rate after we've done the overview of the pipes we're going to do, we rate them based on worst, just like we do with PCI. Is there a model that I would call like a red flag model, right? Where as we go through this, we still plan as a group to budget for the going forward, but we set a threshold. And that threshold is the red flag. And that means if anything we come across along the way, it all goes till the end of the study. But if we come across something that has a 7 millimeter, or 25 millimeter, or 2-yard crack, that's a red flag. We have to fix it now to get ahead of it, to the mayor's point, so that we don't have to do a $2 million repair. Is there a system which we could do that, sort of that red flag model, to save the money, put it to the maintenance fund, but have it available in the moment to do anything that absolutely has to be done today as we go, but not necessarily stop this study from impede it or speed it up unnecessarily?
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So based on my experience doing this kind of work, knowing that these pipes are old, especially our corrugated metal pipes, these red flags are going to be more often than we're hoping. So I think the reality is going to be whether we have $150,000 extra to do rehabilitation work or $1.5 million extra to do rehabilitation work, we're going to start seeing these red flags pretty darn quickly. And, you know, we're happy to address them, and we want to address them as quickly as we can. The reality is, I think it's going to be, we're going to address them as quickly as we're able to obtain funding to address them.
And just to be clear, and I think the mayor will agree with this, the red flag I'm talking about is the imminent, like what you'd call an imminent danger, not needs help, is as bad as it could be, it needs to be repaired, but is like, if we don't fix this tomorrow, someone's going to have an accident.
I totally understand.
Okay.
And I think we're going to have a lot of pipes that when we start having cameras inspecting them, we're going to see voids, significant voids, especially in corrugated metal pipe. That happens. They corrode typically after about 30 years. They're corroded, especially in the environment that we have here near the coast. So and with any rain event, when you have a void in a storm drain pipe, basically what happens is a percent of that stormwater volume no longer goes through the pipe, it goes through the void. And you just start digging out more sediment, and you have sediment transport issues. And at some point in time, the way that you actually find that is through a sinkhole. Luckily, we haven't had those significant issues yet, but I guarantee you we're going to be seeing voids, and anytime we do, it's a cause for concern that we want to address immediately. But I think, frankly speaking, I don't think we're going to be able to address every single one just because of the funding. So we are going to try to address what we see as the most high priority of those. And I still would consider voids, Deputy Mayor, I know you're saying kind of the imminent threat. I think a lot of them are going to be high risk. So, but we'll absolutely, with the funding that we have in any given fiscal year, we'll address what we feel are the most high priority at that time.
Great. Thank you.
Let's see, Councilmember Lyons.
Yeah, Deputy Mayor O'Hara, you just brought something up that I think I'd like to spend just a little bit more time on now that we have this item in front of us. It's not so much about this assessment contract, but it's what this assessment contract will tell us. And we don't know that yet. That's why we're hiring them. But what you're saying is there could be different scenarios. We don't know that yet, but I would like us, and I'll suggest this to our city manager, but to see if this sounds reasonable. I'd like us to get our head around a scenario planning model, because if we have the linear feet or miles of pipe that are identified, and we can anticipate perhaps 10 or 15% of them might be a red flag, what's that scenario? And how quickly do we need what amount of money? Can we, even as we do our strategic planning this year, if we could have some idea what we're looking at here, and it might be premature, but we have a team of smart engineers who have good knowledge and could just let us know what possible scenarios there might be. That would help me.
Yeah, and I think as far as, you know, the workshop that we do, and then also budget, I mean, we've obviously done repairs. So, you know, we can look at past repairs. We can look at ones that are more simple. We can look at ones that had complete failures. We can look to get, you know, kind of a unit price. And so you figure, okay, if you've got 65 miles and you know that you've got 10 to 15%, they're going to be a problem. I can definitely work with staff. We've got finance right there behind them to maybe come up at least with like a cost modeling even before this, because I know as you folks want to go into budget, it's important. And again, dollars, we're going to have to spend them as council wants to and get impact from the public, but there's going to only be so many dollars. So we could definitely look at that. So I will work with the engineering staff as well as finance to see if we could come up with some cost models too. And it's just, it will depend. Like I said, I think Dan's got a good point. I mean, it could happen anywhere, but obviously when it happens on an arterial road, and we had one or two near El Camino Real, it does. You want to talk about traffic stoppage? There you go. When you've got, yeah. So yeah, we can work on something like that.
I appreciate that. It'd be very informative to us and help us plan more efficiently and effectively for what will be our future needs. Thanks.
The last director, your predecessor, gave us a rough number. Again, doesn't have this kind of data, but she was talking about it being roughly a $5 million problem. I believe it's probably at least double that. I think we've had discussions that that's probably true. But now we'll actually know, and I think that's what you're asking for. I'm very much in line with what Councilmember Lyons is asking for, that we want to get a financial idea, big picture. What's this going to cost us? How much money do we need to allocate? And I would note that this is all the existing currently working pipes. This is not including the cost of really piping Leucadia in order to get that. We already are somewhere in the order of $50 million for that whole project, and we're moving forward on one portion of that, the most time critical, most highly leveraged. And I think you said something we haven't run into. 2 or 3 years ago, we had 6 sinkholes in 1 year, including I see the engineering going, yes, including the Lake Drive, that literally closed Lake Drive. So what I'd like, I'll make a motion to approve at the current funding level, the 750, but I would ask and that would be approve the contract, move forward. I would ask an additional item, which is 2 items, actually. One item is, can you go back and negotiate the schedule for no cost? I've always done this. Just at least try and pull it in with the mind to integrate it with earlier construction funding and start as early as we can so we don't lose a whole fiscal year in here. I'd like to, in the 26-27, be allocating money that you can actually spend on preventive maintenance and relining of and repair of segments as you see the red flag segment. So approve, plus please look at integrating that schedule and pulling in when we can start on repairing these things, assuming you get the funding.
And sorry, Mr. Mayor, a couple things on that. Just wanted to make sure that I was clear. The base contract is $750,000, and we are also requesting a $49,000 contingency, $49,500.
Okay.
So is your motion including both of those?
Yeah. The motion would be staff recommendation plus a condition that you go back and integrate the schedule and come back with as early as possible, starting. What's the word I'm looking for? Relining and repair of the worst case, I'll call them the red flag portions or the worst
The
worst
most
of the
highly
worst.
critical, high prioritized.
And we understand it's not going to be 100% of all the bad, and we just want to get going now so that we avoid as many of the $1 million failures as we can, or $100,000 failures, and save that money to put into future relining. So it's a pretty simple motion. I don't know if you want to read it back and whether I get a second.
So far, it's staff recommendation on the table, and then to go back to negotiate this schedule at no cost to maximize the earlier construction funding schedule?
Yeah, and integrate the construction and funding into the schedule so we get early red flag feedback and can start it as early as staff thinks is possible.
Perfect.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, that was Luke, I think, seconding. Okay. I see no more speakers. Anything? Okay. We will call a question.
Motion carries unanimously and takes us to item 10A.
Okay. Let's see, we're on to item 10A. Here we go. Get all our finance people here. 10A is the presentation of the city's annual comprehensive financial report, ACFR, for the financial year ended June 30th, 2025. And the contact person is Finance Manager Attili.
I'm the Financial Reporting Manager for the City of Encinitas. I'm pleased to present to you the annual financial report. I'm going to turn the presentation over to our auditor. This is Coley Delaney. He's the partner for the Poon Group.
All right. Thanks, Monica. So my name is Coley Delaney. As Monica mentioned, I'm partnered with the Poon Group, and I was the engagement partner on the city's June 30, 2025 annual fiscal audit. So I have a brief presentation here for you. I'm going to go over some required communications. These are as required by generally accepted auditing standards. I'll cover some audit responsibilities. I'll do a kind of a high-level overview of the financial statements, and then go over the audit results. All right, so starting with required communications. Again, as required by AUC 260, generally accepted auditing standards. So starting with independence, we complied with all relevant requirements regarding independence. So that means that the firm and all engagement team members are independent from the city. The significant accounting policies in the ACFR are disclosed in Note 2 to the financial statements. This year, the city did implement 2 new GASB financial statements. Those were GASB statement number 101 for compensated absences and GASB statement number 102 for certain risk disclosures. GASB 101 implementation had a moderate, what we would consider a moderate effect on the city's financial reporting, as a prior period adjustment in the amount of $800,000 was necessary to retroactively implement the standard across the city's governmental and business type activities. Again, GASB 102 implementation did not affect the city's financial report. There are significant estimates included in the ACFR that we like to point out. Those include fair market value on investments, depreciation and amortization on capital assets, the city's proportional share of joint ownership for investment in joint venture, and I have noted there that is for Cardiff Sanitary District only this year instead of San Dieguito Water District and Encinitas Sanitary Division. And I'll get into that a little bit more in a second. GASB 101 included a new estimate to be included in these financial statements, which is the liability for the city's unused sick leave for city employees. And what we consider this, and GASB considers this, the more likely than not amount to be either to be used for time off in the future or to be paid out upon separation from the city. And then both the net pension liability and the net OPEB liability have actuarial inputs into those calculations that are estimates as well. As I mentioned, kind of pointed out that investment in joint ventures, there was a change in accounting principle for that. in addition to the change in accounting principle that the city did for GASB 101 implementation. And it affected the investments in joint venture for San Diego Water District and Encinitas Sanitary Division. And again, only Cardiff Sanitary Division still has an investment in joint venture on the balance sheet at June 30, 2025. I'll get into that a little bit more in the next slide. There are some, the ACFR is a large document. And so we like to, barely anybody reads the whole thing from cover to cover. So we like to point out some sensitive disclosures that if you're, at least if you're going to just dabble in it, to check these ones out. So that's note 2 is the summary of significant accounting policies. Note 5, investment in joint venture. We added note 8, capital assets, to this list this year because of the effect and the interrelationship with the change of the investment in joint venture and its effect on capital assets. So I'm pointing that one out here. Note 12 describes the city's fund balance and net position classifications. 15 and 16, pension and OPEB, those are always important ones. And note 20 is prior period adjustments, of which, and so it's a specific one for change in accounting principle, as I mentioned, GASB 101, and the change in investment in joint venture to a capital assets model. So for specifics on that, I would refer you to note 2G in the summary of significant accounting policies in the ACFR. But essentially, the investment in joint venture was relooked at and reevaluated, and ultimately was changed to an undivided joint operations and undivided interest model. So again, I would point you to note 2G in the ACFR to review some further disclosures on that, and again, additional information in notes 5 and 8. All right. Always pleased to report that we encountered no significant difficulties in dealing with management, and we didn't have any disagreements with management in terms of accounting treatments or audit procedures performed, and we did not come across any instances where transactions occurred that did not have authoritative guidance. So on to some more, again, required communications. We're just discussing the relative breakdown between management's responsibilities and the auditor's responsibilities for these financial statements. So ultimately, management is responsible for these financial statements. They are responsible for presenting them in accordance with U.S. GAAP, for adopting sound accounting policies, establishing and maintaining internal controls over financial reporting and compliance, and providing the auditors with evidence supporting the amounts and disclosures in the financial statements. They're also responsible for the fair presentation of the financial statements that are free from material misstatements, whether due to fraud or error, and are also responsible for preventing and detecting fraud. As the auditors, we are responsible for performing the audit in conformity with generally accepted auditing standards as well as governmental auditing standards. We're responsible for communicating with those charged with governance, for assessing the audit risk of internal control over financial reporting, determining the fairness of the presentation of the financial statements, rendering our opinion on the financial statements, and issuing recommendations to management, if any. I will state it is important to note that as we assess the risk of internal control over financial reporting, we do that in order to assess risk and determine the nature, timing, and extent of our audit procedures, but we do not provide an opinion on the city's internal controls. So with that, I'll get into a brief, again, a high-level overview of the city's financial statements. We're going to focus on the government-wide statements, and here we're going to start with a condensed statement of net position, essentially the balance sheet, but we call it the statement of net position for the governmental activities. Kind of just a quick look comparing this year to last year and seeing, again, at a high level where we are. So. Looking at this, assets increased by $15.4 million. Cash and investments within the assets decreased by $3.8 million in total, while the capital assets increased by $18 million, with the remainder of the city's assets and the governmental activities remaining relatively static. Pension-related deferred outflows decreased this year by $5.6 million. Liabilities decreased by $4.9 million, with current liabilities decreasing by $2 million, and long-term liabilities decreasing by an additional $2.9 million. Pension-related deferred inflows decreased by $700,000, while OPEB-related deferred inflows increased by $200,000, and lease-related deferred inflows also decreased by $200,000 via normal amortization. And for net position at the government-wide level, we have three different categories: net investment in capital assets, basically, which is the amount of capital assets on the books, kind of net of any related debt outstanding related to those, and any unspent capital bond proceeds, that sort of thing. So that's going to be your net investment in capital assets, which increased by $9.8 million this year. Let's see, and then restricted is restricted by third parties or enabling legislation. That decreased by $13 million, and then unrestricted net position is the residual. Went from a deficit of $13 million to a positive $6.5 million in 2025. Overall change in net position for the governmental activities was a positive $15.6 million. All right, so similarly onto the cities, we're staying at the government-wide level, looking at the business type activities. The assets increased $9 million, mainly due to non-current assets, which include investment in joint venture and capital assets, combined increasing by $6 million. And then cash and investments increasing makes up most of the rest of the year-over-year change. For deferred outflows of resources, those were similar for both years. Liabilities decreased by $1.7 million, with accounts payable and other accrued liabilities decreasing by $400,000 versus last year, and long-term debt decreasing by $1.7 million. Other line items saw small changes year over year. Deferred inflows of resources saw pension-related deferred inflows decrease by about $200,000 and lease items by $100,000. And then for the net position, again, same categories as for the governmental activities. Net investment in capital assets category increased by $37.2 million, and the unrestricted net position decreased by $26.7 million. And again, that's a big change there in those categories. That is very much related to the change in accounting principle from investment in joint venture, which would have fallen under unrestricted assets, to now the undivided interest method. We're now the city and in the enterprise funds are now recording. We put it as treatment plant, right? I think treatment plant assets. So those go now change that category of where they would fall into on the net position. All right, income statement side, so starting with the governmental activities, total governmental expenses increased by $4.4 million. General government and planning services saw decreases of between $1.2 and $2 million, but other categories saw increases. Public safety expenses increased by $2 million, and so did public works. Engineering services saw a $3.8 million increase, and parks and rec and interest remained similar to 2024. Charges for services increased by $700,000, operating grants by $1.6 million, and capital grants and contributions by $3.3 million, which caused the net cost of services to decrease by $1.3 million compared to 2024. Property taxes increased by $3.5 million, and sales and use taxes increased by $1.7 million, and investments in earnings increased by $440K. Overall, governmental activities had a positive change in net position of $16.4 million compared to $10.4 million in 2024. Business type activities, again on the government-wide still. Business type expenses increased by $2.4 million, with operating expenses for SDWD increased by $3.7 million. Expenses for Cardiff Sanitary Division decreased $200,000, and Encinitas Sanitary Division increased by $500,000, and affordable housing expenses increased by $400,000 as well. The remainder of the year-over-year change was in non-operating. Charges for services increased by $5.4 million versus 2024, with the largest increase there coming from SDWD, which saw an increase of $4.4 million. Operating and capital grants and contributions increased by $300,000 over 2024. Investment earnings by $300,000 as well. And overall, net position went up by $8.2 million. $8.2 million in 2025 compared to $2.4 million in 2024. So now let's quickly look at the general fund. We're looking at the balance sheets. Total assets increased by $3.4 million versus last year, with that increase mostly coming in cash and investments. Liabilities decreased $1.1 million, with most of that coming from accounts payable. And then in the governmental funds, we have There's technically 5 different categories for fund balance, but the city only reports 4 of them. So non-spendable fund balance includes things like inventories and prepaid items, as well as the long-term portion of leases receivable. These increased by $1.3 million over 2024. Restricted fund balance is similar to restricted net position. Again, we're talking about restrictions by third parties or enabling legislation. And let's see, in the general fund, these amounts are mainly restricted for flexible savings accounts. The commitment category is committed by council resolution. And that includes $2.3 million for budget stabilization and $21.2 million for operating reserve. And that operating reserve has increased by $1.3 million since 2024. And then the unassigned fund balance is really the important piece of fund balance for the general fund. That's the more discretionary portion of it. That's just the residual amount that does not belong in any other category. And so you see there that increased by $2 million this year. Overall, total fund balance in the general fund increased by $4.7 million. On the general fund income statement side, revenues increased by $6.4 million. Taxes and assessments increased by $4.8. Use of money in property had an increase of about $400,000, and other revenue by $700,000. On the expenditure side, those did increase by $2.3 million versus 2024, with an increase in general government of $1.6 million, public safety of $4 million, and capital outlay actually decreased in the general fund in 2025 by $5 million. In the other financing sources and uses, we have transfers, and so those are going to be transfers out of this year of the general fund to other funds. We also have debt issuance. You'll see a decent change there in 2024. Had the issuance of the 2024 lease revenue bond. In 2025, the debt issuances were really just leases and/or subscriptions. So, not necessarily like bonded debt. And then overall, the fund balance in the general fund increased by $4.7 million in 2025 versus an $875,000 loss in 2024. All right, so let's get to the audit results. So we did issue our opinions on this financial statement, and we issued unmodified, which you would call a quote-unquote clean opinion to all opinion units. There are several different opinion units as far as we're concerned included in the ACFR, and that's going to be the governmental activities, the business type activities. Each of the major funds is its own opinion unit and gets its own opinion as well. And then the aggregate remaining funds combined get their own as well. So what an unmodified opinion means is that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. The accounting policies have been consistently applied. The estimates used in the financial statements are reasonable, and the disclosures are properly reflected in the financial statements. Again, just point out that we had no disagreements with management. We did not note any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, which would be reportable conditions in internal control over financial reporting or compliance this year. I will point out that we are still wrapping up the 2025 federal single audit for entities that expend over $750,000 in federal funds, but most of that work has been completed, and we're not anticipating any findings for that. Second to last here, we did not note any inappropriate activities or fraud, waste, and abuse, which are required to be reported on by us. And then again, no accounting issues were noted where there was a lack of authoritative guidance. And so with that will conclude my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, and do we have? We have one speaker. We have one public, and Councilmember Schaefer, would you like to go before or after public? After, okay. So let's do the public.
Scott Campbell with the time donation from Ellen Burr, who is present.
We've really got to get this thing in the middle. Got all this money, we're spending all this money, let's move this thing into the middle. Okay, so my name's Scott Campbell, and Encinitas Citizen Review Panel did a review of the finances, and it's going to come up. But until then, the beach sand stuff. It seems like pretty high, and I encourage the council and the staff to check out how much it costs to buy high-quality dirt from Palma Valley and have it trucked out here. I mean, 9,000 yards is a lot, but we're not even buying the sand. It's free sand. In fact, we should be charging the developer to put that sand and let it wash away into the ocean. We shouldn't be paying any money. They should be paying us. The storm drain assessments is a big part of this graph, the positive and the end in 2025, unrestricted, because the council has been saving us money. We've been spending money wisely. Now, on the storm drains, we talk about these failures. It's more than failures. It's failure modes. How many different ways can these things fail? There's a hole. There's a zipper. Is it separated? Is it crushed? These things all have different impacts, and we need to, more than identify the failures, identify the types, and that'll help us out a lot. Anyways, these unrestricted is taxes. This is what the people that live here are paying money. We're paying property taxes and sales taxes, and we want good use of the money. And what this chart shows is that previously, we got spent. People were spending our money on things that maybe residents didn't want, and that's why some of the council's up here right now. And you can see we're getting back into the black, and that is where we want to be. And we just heard a whole bunch of stuff, and let's keep on doing this. Now, deep in this document, it's a 255-page document, there's historical data. And that's more interesting to me, that the pinpoint data. I'm not a financial guy. I can't add up. I don't have the access to this, but I can look at the historical data and draw plots. And what this shows is actually over time, for some reason, we're getting less calls to the sheriffs. I don't know why this is, but it's good. Now, there's a little uptick there. Fire has gone up, which is interesting because the populations have been steady for 10 years. And yet we're getting more per person. These are percentages. Almost 10% of people are getting EMS calls. I mean, I'm not about people, but that's, it's calls and divided by population. And arrests have been down. We've increased sheriffs. These are raw numbers. I'm not saying this is good or bad. This is just the reality here. There's other documents that the city does, the top 25 sales tax producers, and I think we should take a look at this. There's some new entries on there. Cake House and Walgreens, they get a bonus. They get 7.75 extra percent. But if you look at a lot of these other businesses, they're very auto-centric. They're gas stations, they sell cars, or they're places you really aren't going to go shopping there without a vehicle. And we ask the council to consider this when you're doing lane diets and bike lanes and things like that. And I really like that 25 miles an hour. Vulcan is 25, and I think parts of Coast Highway are 25 that have bike lanes. So that's quite interesting. Nobody's going to go to Total Wine on their bike. I mean, not very, very few people, like less than 1%. Nobody's going to, I guess you could go to Tesla and walk in there and walk out with a car. That's not happening. In-N-Out, they're drive-in. I mean, there's their cars. I have a bike. I ride it around all over town. But this is what is really bringing in the money. We have this business commission. I think you should talk to some of these people too. These are the big people. And let's go to the next slide. Businesses employ people. According to this document, there's 34,000 employees. That's over half the city. So a lot of these people are working in Encinitas that do not live here. We talk about affordability, but the reality is they're pulling it off and they're making it happen. So maybe that's just a weird argument. Now, I gave all these gold stars to companies that have increased their businesses, their employees from 2024. It's I've said up here, we need real business. Flock Freight, they're high tech. I don't necessarily agree with their cameras and stuff, but they're making it happen. They're on this list. Dudek, who's never been on this list, they're providing engineering services These are big players. Once again, the Business Commission should probably be looking at these more than maybe some of the people that were up here earlier for environmental. They're doing good stuff. These companies are bringing a lot more money and a lot more employees that are a lot more important actually to the city. I think that the residents that are paying the money would appreciate these companies more than some of the other services that we've been doing. And I believe that's it. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. I could talk about this AFCR probably every meeting of the whole year. It's 255 pages. It's incredible stuff. And some of you may have heard, this is the gold standard data. This is accurate data. This guy's going to stand by it. He signed off on it. And just keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes speakers on this item.
Okay, we'll go to Councilmember Schaefer.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, staff. This is, I think Scott just nailed it on the head. Hats off. This is what we've been talking about. This is one of the first questions we asked when we got here about top cities in the state. And I say the state because the state is so different than so many other states, and so it's unique to really the union, but it puts us in a really high end. And hats off to all of you making this happen, and then again the leadership at the other side of the table down here, really leaning into this and into the comments, and then again to Scott for really recognizing what the staff is doing for the city. I just couldn't. We're in the best position we could be in right now, and I think that we're just going to keep gaining. So I just wanted to say that, and I had to, as I've seen this, and these numbers were, I don't know, astonishing. As the auditor, what was your take just on cities that you see? Not that you can speak on them specifically, but
Yeah, well, that's always a general caveat, right? Is that our opinion does not does not cover the city's operations or financial health. But obviously, I think as you can see, looking at the statement of activities on the government-wide side, and then essentially the income statements at the fund level too, specifically focusing, everyone's concerned with the general fund, most of all. But that if you look at both of those two statements, that you'll see that the city certainly this year is in better financial position than it was last year.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, I'll hop in there. The 1.5 million in debt issuance this year, was that a lease for a fire truck or something like that, or do we know what it was offhand?
I forget specifically. I'll let you guys answer that one. But
sorry, thank you. It could be for subscription-based IT arrangements. That's part of those liabilities, as well as other equipment and leases under GASB 87. So anytime a contract expires and we renew it, it's like it resets the whole 5-year term as a full liability on the books.
Okay, so debt issuance includes multi-year IT contracts in addition to, I assume, trucks that we put a lease revenue bond on, or any big bonding issues like hall property, et cetera. Right, that all comes in there. Mm-hmm. And my recollection, last time we borrowed big money, I can't remember whether it was the $20 million budget. Yeah. I thought the debt it was the $6 million for Surfers Point. I thought our debt service went up to $5.4 million per year, but this said 5.2. So did I just have that wrong before? Did we get a better deal and refi something down?
Well, the debt service will decrease as as bonds start to fall off.
As revenue goes up.
Or, fire truck financings, for example, may, end. So then the annual debt service does decrease. So I know perhaps you were looking at maybe the proprietary funds, because I know that the water district had completed paying off one of their bonds.
I think I was looking at the city debt service level, and I was very happy to see we're well under the limit. I think typically we say 6% was our policy, and then we're staying well under that to maintain our AAA rating and bonds. So that's great. Let's see on the concept of net position. I think I understand net assets and things for a city. What is a net position, just for the layperson too, so that we all understand?
So 8 years ago or so, it was called net assets.
Okay.
Right? You have your assets and your liabilities, and then the residual is net position. But around then, the GASB came out with some new elements for the balance sheet. And those were deferred outflows of resources and deferred inflows of resources. And so because of those appearing on the balance sheet, they've essentially, or the statement of net position, they changed the name of that as well. They decided that it was no longer proper to call it net assets. Essentially, it's just a nomenclature change. But it still is, it's essentially the same thing. Net position works out where you take assets plus deferred outflows of resources.
Okay.
Now minus liabilities, minus deferred inflows of resources, and now you have net position versus before you just had assets,
got it.
liabilities, and then net.
And what's an
assets.
example of a deferred inflow or outflow?
Well, so in the governmental, if you're looking at your general fund, the general fund actually has a deferred inflow for deferred lease receivables. So these are items that they have a lease receivable on the books, but due to the short-term nature of the modified accrual basis, how the general fund is supposed to be reported, that is revenue that will be received in the future, and then will essentially move from a deferred outflow on the balance sheet into a revenue in the future. That's why it's a deferred inflow.
Okay.
And then
So-
it works opposite on the other side as well.
Awesome. So, and the enterprise funds, we have multiple enterprise funds, and they have to balance all whatever fees they collect, be it sewer or water. They each have to fund themselves completely. So they're part of this audit, but they're
So
pretty much
yeah.
balanced by definition.
Yeah, and so those are considered enterprise funds, right? Which rely on charges for services as their main source of revenue, and those funds are supposed to be self-sufficient. Yeah.
Okay. The one thing I was surprised Scott didn't present employment. I thought he'd have an FTE count in there. And if I go back and look at the history, a few years ago we went up 3%, 4%, 4% in subsequent years for an 11% increase, and we've been relatively flat. I think we added a quarter head count in there, maybe one other head count. We've been pretty zero. Yeah, it's very close to zero. And I credit our city manager in holding that line almost as tenaciously as I do, and the rest of us. So I thought that's worth pointing out. And last but not least, pension liability, always a fun topic. And this might be for Tom more than the auditor. How does pension liability change with the investment environment, and haven't we had a very good investment environment in the last year?
Yes, yeah. CalPERS, which handles the retirement program for many municipalities, including ours, sets assumptions for investment returns at 6.8%. 6.8, just checking, because they've changed that quite a few times over the years.
You're anticipating my next question, by the way. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Although investment returns over the last couple of years have been much higher, so that's actually lifted the percentage of the unfunded liability that is covered by what's held at CalPERS.
So it's reduced our unfunded liability.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so did they change? I remember back, it used to be 7-point-something% or even a little higher than that, and they downgraded. Did they change the discount rate at any time during the last year? Has it been 6.8 for the whole year, this fiscal year? Or do you know?
I believe so, yeah.
It's the same. It's the same.
It's the same. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember 10 years ago when we tried to buy out a pension contract for, I think, with the battalion chiefs. When we went to CalPERS, they said, no, you don't pay the discount rate. You pay this higher. Wait, you can't do that. Or to actually pay for a lower. In other words, they were changing the price to sell versus when they were doing it. So I'm glad to see it stayed steady, 6.8. But my point I want to make, and so we all think about this, is if investment drops, if we have a slight recession and it drops below 6.8%, then our pension liability will go up. And it's a pretty good lever arm. I think a few years ago, we went tens of millions positive one year, tens of millions negative the next. So, don't try and spend that excess pension liability, which probably had a lot to do with our the investment environment probably added to our net position increases. That's where I was going with this whole thing.
Yes, absolutely correct.
Okay. And with that, I will recognize Councilmember Lyons.
I have a couple questions. Thank you for the really good report. My first question is, could you articulate more specifically what bonds were retired this year? You mentioned that a minute ago, and I was wondering if you had that information?
It was the San Dieguito Water District bonds?
Oh, and was that one or two?
No, just one.
Just one? Good. Okay, thank you. And I think I remember you saying that a lot of the upside was due to cash and investments, and I think that's what you were just getting at with the mayor's question, cash and investments. So appreciate that. We've had a good act for the 5 years I've been on city council, and I've always been very proud of how responsible we are and how we manage our money and how we make decisions and how we track our money. I think that says a lot about an entity. And I want to acknowledge our consultant. I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Oh, Coley Delaney.
Thank you. I want to acknowledge you for reading numbers so fast. I'm just like, you're in the right profession. But I really feel like numbers tell a story. And it's almost like there's all these digits, and what they end up telling you is this whole story about how the entity makes decisions and who they are, what is their culture. And I see us as being, and have continued to be, responsible and responsible as far as how we spend money, and very diligent about how we track it and how we report it. And I'm just very proud to be a part of this organization that does things this way. Tom, you've done some great work, and your team as well. And I know you were filling big shoes, and now you're fully in the lead. So appreciate this, and look forward to more in the future.
Deputy Mayor O'Hara.
Thank you. Could you put the last slide up, please, that you had up? The last one with the numbers, I'm sorry. The last, had the 800, there we go. Yes, that's it. Wait, right there. That's an incredible slide. First off, thank you for a great report. Really long, which is a compliment to your dedication and hard work and your ability to kind of get your nose in there and get to the bottom of these numbers. It's pretty impressive. I look at this slide and I feel like we have a moment as a council and as a city to feel really good. And I think when I got in office, I'm Councilmember Schaefer, the mayor, we joined obviously Deputy Mayor Lyons at the time, and Councilmember San Antonio, and we all talked about putting this together and getting this into the black, and how we do that, and looking at the numbers. And I think everybody kind of got on board and we said, okay, let's see where this goes. We're going to do our work. And I sit here, actually, I'm going to say this, I sat over there with my walker after my back injury, and came into that meeting, and we stuck to it. And Councilmember San Antonio set the budget, and he wouldn't budge. And he didn't just set the budget, he set a tone. And that was important. I think that setting that tone sent the message to staff that I think the city manager already knew, that we were serious about bringing this into the black. And so I'm really glad to see this report. I'm really glad we get to go over it with residents to take a look at it. Thank you for putting it together. And I know all of us up here are bound to are dedicated to seeing this continue and just get healthier. So thank you to everybody.
Okay. Let's see. I was just asking whether or not we need a motion to accept and file. What would you like? Or is this just an accept and file and we're good? I don't know. I forget what we do annually.
Yeah. Accept and file the report.
Okay, so no motion necessary at this point. Well, thank you, and I echo everything they've said. The thank you. This is great. It's a complete picture.
Mayor, I'm in the queue too. I don't know if you saw me.
Yeah. You're right after. I'll yield to you in a minute. I just wanted to call out Jim. You thanked Marco San Antonio for holding the line. I remember you hit me with something during the budget time. You said, "Is this a need to have or want to have?" And man, that brought clarity to me that day. So thank you. I think that mirrored what we saw down the line here, and I just wanted to make sure you got credit for that. Need to have versus want to have. And that's going to be coming up on February 2nd and 3rd. So with that, I will recognize Deputy Mayor Lyons.
Right. I hope to correct the record, but I'm going to ask Tom because I was on a leave of absence last year, and maybe I missed part of the budget cycle because of that. But I've never known us to operate not in the black, right? We don't operate in a negative. We don't project our expenses into the negative.
No. Typically, we leave a fund balance. It's positive when we do budget projections.
Right. And that's what we've done the 5 years I've been on city council. So I think I just want to help clarify that when you're talking about our budget cycle and we're kind of juggling back and forth between what are we going to prioritize or not, it's a dialogue, and there's more needs than there is money, but we never have made a decision at the end of all that has put us in a situation where we're budgeting outside of what money there is available. So I would consider that we have been operating in the black, and we continue to, and that's really important to me.
And I would add to that, we have a roughly $20 million operating reserve and a $2-point-something million. So we have $22 million that keeps us in the black. But beyond that, typically, and you'll hear me constantly asking finance, what's the unassigned general fund balance? And if you look at the numbers tonight, it's $13 million, but you got to knock off unspendable, unrealized capital gains of $1-point-something million. And so you start getting down, and a few other committed where we've committed it. So I'm always watching that number. And what we did do is about 4 years ago, we had about $10 million in unassigned general fund. We put 7 of that directly in 1 year onto Pacific View, and several other projects ate up the rest of it. We got down to under $500,000, where we had a nominal process, not a procedure or anything, a nominal process of running with a $2 million unassigned general fund. And we've been below that for a couple of years now. And so it's not, we're still in the black, totally. Not only that, we have the reserve funds, but I think we're now getting back to where we're going to go back into a full budget with a $2 million unassigned general fund. So it just gets the nuance. I think it's a discipline that we're seeing from the 5 members up here that we want to be operating like we were, like we had, and not overspend if we can. So Deputy Mayor O'Hara.
I think that just echoes. I mean, my comment was about the funded balance, the numbers that were sitting in front of us. I wasn't commenting about your past 5 years. I was commenting about this year, the 5 people sitting up here, and commenting on the success of that. Previous 4 years, my comment is about this year, and this report's about this year, so I'm really proud of what we've done this year.
Okay, with that, thank you, and we will move on. Do you want to take a break? We got 2 items left.
How long are you going to talk? We need a break?
Well, the question is, yeah, that's fine. It's up to you. What's the pleasure of the council? 10 minute? Well, at 5 it's going to be 10. So let's say 10 minutes back at 8:30, but be here at 8:30 sharp. Okay. We will move on now to item 10B, annual report concerning the Mitigation Fee Act for fiscal year 2024-25, and the contact person is Annalise Ramos.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council members. This is the Mitigation Fee Act Annual Report for fiscal year 24-25. Some background information on this report. The Mitigation Fee Act is part of the state government code that governs the establishment and administration of development impact fees. The government code requirements include having separate funds to avoid commingling with other revenues, producing an annual report making specific information available for each fund, and every 5 years making certain findings regarding unexpended fund balances. These reports need to be available to the public within 180 days after the last day of the fiscal year and brought to council at the next regularly scheduled meeting. The purpose of development impact fees is to mitigate the impact of planned new development on city facilities to maintain an acceptable level of public service as the city grows. These must have a specific use and reasonable relationship to the development. These are defined in impact fee studies. The next impact fee study update is expected to be brought before council on March 25th. While cities are not required to have development impact fee programs, cities that choose to establish a program must follow state government code requirements. Encinitas collects 9 different fees in separate funds to mitigate impacts on parks, traffic, open space and trails, community facilities, fire protection, and flood control. This report meets the annual requirements outlined in the government code, which are summarized in this slide. And with that, staff recommends that council reviews and files the report to meet the state mandated requirements. And that concludes this presentation. We're available if you have questions.
So we have no public. With that, I think I only had the one question I asked during briefing, which was about if you look at the trend chart of fees. I think we looked at this last year when I asked a similar question. Which one would it be? Park, well, the 2 park fees, park acquisition and park development, and then the regional traffic fees are all well up in this year, but the local traffic fee, let me get this right, the traffic mitigation fee is down. That doesn't make sense to me. It seems like they'd all forego in unison. So what happened?
Yeah. In those cases, the calculations are slightly different for those fees. And in the case of the regional traffic mitigation fee and traffic mitigation fee. Sandag establishes a flat fee for regional traffic CIP fees, whereas the city has a formula for their traffic mitigation fees that also exempts certain categories. And I think in looking at the current fiscal year, we saw that there was one particular development that was assessed the regional fee, but not the traffic mitigation fee. And so that accounts for the.
Which development was that?
That was the Triton development on 1967 North Vulcan Avenue.
And so is that a policy we could look at updating? Because that seems like it's generating traffic per unit just like anybody else.
Yeah, we certainly look at the modeling, refreshing the modeling with this particular study, and we'll take a look at that and see why there is exceptions for certain types of developments.
I would like that reported back to us. I'd like to understand the exemptions and whether they are based in a policy that we want to continue with or whether we want to consider changing it, because that seems like we may have lost, I'm going to guess, $500,000 or more in mitigation fees from that project, based on just looking at the trends from last year. So, cool. That answers my question. Deputy Mayor O'Hara.
I had a question, kind of just based on my experience with park fees. Is with parkland fees, if we don't use park development funds, I know that they disappear after a certain amount of time. How much of the 9 major funds that we have here, do we have like timelines on these? And in other words, how much of this is expiring, retiring, whatever, going away? How much of this remains for how long? And or is each of these, are any of these open-ended, or any of these a specific timeline?
Currently, you have 7 years to either commit to the project and expend the money, or those can be reallocated to other eligible projects. So as long as they're committed at this point, they can, you don't lose them per se, although there is now a change in state law that you do need to have a more robust CIP where you are identifying specific timelines. They can't be open-ended forever. So, but 7 years is when you do the look back, and there is is it currently the 5-year?
The 5-year report will tell, we have to basically report on what, if there's any unspent funding in these funds, any of the mitigation fees, we have to report what we've done with that in the next 5-year report.
And then it's the retirement time of any of the dollars is from the date it's collected.
Correct. We also have to determine whether we have collected enough funds in order to spend on a project. So that is also part. We don't necessarily have to spend the funding within the 5 years. 7 years is for the RTCIP fee. We just have to determine that enough funding has been collected in order for us to spend it.
Makes sense. So if we continue to use the fund and we continue to collect fees, the fund stays solid. If we don't use the fund or we don't collect fees, one or the other, it gets to it dies at a certain point. But as long as we keep using it and keep collecting, it keeps going.
Correct. Our fee policy states that we must collect it. So per policy, we collect it for all new development.
Perfect. Thanks. It's a great report. It's looking forward to the March report and discussion at Council regarding mitigation fees. I think the public's going to have a lot of questions and a lot to say. So thank you for a good report at this time. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Lyons.
So we have the money as it's shown that we've collected. Once is the right word designate or commit that money to a certain project, then that's reserved, and that declares that we have identified how we're going to use it. Does that protect it from the time frame?
It does, as long as you're identifying eligible projects and working towards completing those projects.
Okay, good. That's just a level of comfort that, and I know we're not going to let the money disappear. But sometimes we hesitate to do that when we don't have enough money for that project. We look for other sources so that we're not letting money, so that we're totally utilizing the money to the full advantage that we can instead of having it sit on a project for years. So I understand that's a little bit of a balance in decision making that we manage throughout the year. Thank you.
Okay, I don't have any other speakers. This is another accept and file. Thank you. I appreciate the data. It's always good.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and Mr. Mayor, if I could, Mr. Gallup, our finance director, we are actually bringing back a report on mitigation fees. You have entered into an agreement with a consultant to look at our mitigation fees. You've held a community meeting. I know you're going to be also meeting with the Building Industry Association. When will we be presenting that to council? And that will help us look at the current fees that we're charging and if we can increase those and how that would impact the city.
Yeah, we're looking at March presentation date, and and we have some initial proposed fees already prepared. So we'll go back and look at traffic mitigation fees in particular.
And in particular, if you got to have a section discussing in the report discussing exemptions and what they are and whether they are logical and whether they follow the policy, we'd like to, do we have discretion to adjust those? Because it sure seems like in the example cited that we're seeing here, it's big and it would have provided quite a bit of traffic mitigation.
Can we pick per project which fees are more pertinent? Like in the Trident area, that the flooding would have been a predominantly large one if they weren't going to be paying the traffic mitigation that we're already kind of doing.
I think it's a question for staff, but
Generally they're collected and applied to projects throughout the city. And the fee is collected for CIPs and infrastructure projects that address future needs. So
are you collecting fees specifically for each one of these, or is it kind of cumulative and we can choose where we want to put that?
Yeah, you have the option to choose which projects to
once you get them
to apply it.
To apply it.
But the collection is based on square foots or units. It's equitably distributed to the various projects, and I'm sure there's a legal nexus between the project impact and the amount of fee that we can charge.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's correct.
Well, again, I'm just going down certain, either it's in the specific area, I'll just use Piraeus Point, they try to get the 1.8 which is a different fee for the actual land that was sold, but certain areas don't necessarily, the open space acquisition, but we want to make sure that we're getting the funds specifically for flooding, Leucadia, that would have been specific, and I just want to make sure that we don't have to designate that up front, that we're getting a certain amount, and then given the current infrastructure, I'm not sure that I'm going to say they're carrying more of the weight, but the rate goes up because it's a supply and demand issue, and the supply there has a higher demand of flooding. So you're going on aged infrastructure. Are we negotiating differently because this property has?
Yeah, I think in the current fee structure, it's probably modeled more on a per square foot per
I'm sure.
per unit, and I don't know. It looks like I'm guessing Dan would like to weigh in.
Thank you, Dan.
Sure, Mr. Mayor, appreciate that. Councilmember Schaefer, so just to give a little bit more of a foundation of how these impact fees are gathered, it really truly is an impact fee, right? Where if we use drainage, for instance, a developer, whether it's a single family home or a multi-unit apartment building, as has been mentioned, they will pay a fee based on typically the square footage of what they're building. And for drainage improvements, that fee is collected amongst other developments as well. We typically do not have enough money from a single developer for an impact fee to build an entire project. So an impact fee is going to be a little bit different than when we are conditioning a project. There are times when a development project can be conditioned to install public improvements. If we have the ability and the nexus to require a private development to build public improvements, we make sure that we do that to the furthest extent that we are legally allowed to do. But those are two different things.
I get that, but going back to our conversation with, what was that 8J, or sorry, 8N, regarding the drainage, these are specifically where you would want to make sure, because different parts of our town have different needs. And it would help out significantly, I think, in when we get to budget time, knowing which, I'll just use Randy Goodson, right? The Goodson project, it's a very, very big impact, but they're not, maybe they do need more trails over there. They don't have as much of a flooding issue necessarily on that side of the road, or whatever the specific is. And so I'm just making sure that as we look at these and as we bring these back, that we're kind of looking at the entirety of what it is that we're trying to manage infrastructure-wise. Sure. And that it matches what the study's going to show after 18 months.
Absolutely, and to that effect, ultimately, council has the ability to designate where they want these funds to go. For instance, the Goodson property, that developer did have to also pay drainage mitigation fees. There's not a drainage concern there, so there's a very high likelihood that those mitigation fees will be used in Cardiff or Leucadia. So it really ultimately goes into a single pot that council gets to make a determination of where is the best prioritization for where those funds are utilized.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, it was interesting looking at the 10-year trend of the different fees. And the park acquisition, park development is in the hundreds of thousands per year that we're collecting, maybe even 400,000 or 500,000 each of those funds. And then the two traffic, the regional and the other ones are multiple hundreds of thousands. And then when you get into the others, community facilities, fire mitigation, flood control, it's well under 50,000. Yeah. That's total for the year. So one of the things when we come back in March, I think this is a subject for March discussion, is whether our flood control, because what we're looking at is a price tag on our flood mitigation in Leucadia alone in the $50+ million. We're probably looking at tens of millions of dollars, multiple tens of millions of dollars for refurbing all of our 40, 50, and 60-year-old flood. We may have been undercharging per new development for all of our current flood control. Yeah. But that's a discussion for March, and it looks like I don't have anybody else who wants to speak, and so we will accept and file, and thank you, and we will move on to item 12A, which is the council-initiated item from Deputy Mayor Jim O'Hara to create business hours of operation within the city of Encinitas. And with that, I'll turn it over to Deputy Mayor O'Hara.
Sure. So I'll do the introduction. Do we have any public comment? Okay, so I'll do the introduction and then we do public comment if that's okay. Okay, so this has been one of those kind of spurred by community action and comments that kind of culminated with an incident we had, and we got a public comment about it actually from a resident. I'm not going to ask to put the pictures up or anything like that, but I think it kind of tells about kind of what spurred this. And when that incident happened, I went down to the business where it happened, spoke to the business owner, and kind of talked about the challenges that business owner faces. Kind of walked away, listened to other issues we'd had. At this time, it was downtown, but I think any issue we have downtown is the same as the issue we have citywide. And it kind of led me to thinking, our job up here is trying to think of create a safe environment for our residents, would include obviously people who recreate and work here. And from there, it became a conversation with the sheriff, like, hey, how can we do this? How can we look at the downtown area to make it safe in this case? And how can we provide protection, a better scenario for our businesses and our residents? And within that, it became this idea of, okay, how do we create business hours so that for a certain time every day, the businesses are closed. And diving into that to find out the benefits of essentially the well-being of our residents, our well-being of our people who come here to work, limiting hours of operation, I should say, or having hours where we're closed is more the point of this this council-initiated item. And so when we start to look at it, we look at how it can help deter criminal activity. Obviously, the implementation of security measures for our stores and our businesses throughout the day. And furthermore, it helps our public safety officers who have to patrol these various areas. You know, my mom and dad still say to this day, nothing good happens after 2 a.m. And there's other sayings out there I'm not going to say, but that's what my parents use. And for the most part, they're right. So to look at some hours where nothing good happens, but to put our public safety officers, our sheriff's department, our HOPE team in a position when to be more effective during the hours businesses are closed. And then in some of these cases, I also discovered talking to residents that by creating business hours, we're actually giving the residents their neighborhood back. We're giving them 2.5, 3 hours where there's nothing going on downtown. They can leave their windows open at night. Eventually, in another item up here, we'll get the train noise taken care of. But of the noise that isn't involving the train, we have an opportunity to get rid of it for a few hours every night and bring some peace to these people as part of this. And I'm not suggesting that we've got a huge issue with their sleeping and challenges from it, but it is part of this. So I want to take public comment before we get too deep into it. But the proposal is to work towards working with the Sheriff's Department, businesses who have all supported this measure so far, the City Attorney's Office, to talk about having business hours for the City of Encinitas. At this time, we'll take public comment and go from there.
Fabian Ganell.
Thank you, council members. I rise in opposition to this measure because I don't think the city should force every business in the city to close overnight because one business owner wants to close his business overnight. And I know we just heard this is all about public safety and all of that, and I'll get to that too. But first, let's see what the record shows. And the record that the public has is just what's in front of us. And what's in front of us is the majority of the correspondence is Mr. Harbier Verk wants to close his 7-Elevens, his 2 7-Elevens, between the hours of 2 and 5. Great for him. Completely support that. I think that's fantastic. I don't know if he can do that consistent with his franchise agreement, maybe not. That's why he's asking the city to make it illegal. But I have no issue with that. But why should every business in the city have to close overnight because he wants to close his businesses? That seems a little extreme. So I started to look into, well, what does this actually affect? And just one guy, me, total amateur, going on Google Maps and just clicking around and trying to figure out what goes on in the city, there's more than 20 businesses, 20 other businesses other than Mr. Verk's businesses that operate 24 hours. Other convenience stores, gas stations, combination gas station convenience stores, car washes, veterinary service, others, some of which are the top taxpayers that were on Scott's report. Thank you, Scott. And there's at least 5 coffee shops, a donut shop, another fast food place that they're going to lose at least some of their operating hours because of this. No evidence of their consultation, no evidence of their buy-in to this. That seems like a lot of disruption. So then I started to look at, okay, well, is there a big crime problem during these hours? How can I tell that? Well, the city helpfully has crime data, a little crime data map available to us residents that are amateurs at this. So this is what I did. I went to the map, tried to put in all of Encinitas, had to get just a tiny bit of Carlsbad, maybe a little Solana Beach, and a little too far east out there, but this is basically Encinitas last 90 days, right? And I wanted you all to see what I did so that it's complete transparency. And so I went through the data, and there's no way to print out these reports. So I had to click manually through and count one by one, all 351. And what did I find? 351 reported incidents. 17 of those were between 2 and 5 a.m., which means 334 were during other hours. So in about 12% of the hours, there were 5% of the incidents. Or put it another way, the average for Encinitas is about 4 reported incidents a day. But in these hours, it's 1 incident every 5 days. That's what we're talking about here.
Thank you.
Perfect. That concludes public speakers. However, we had 4 speakers support the recommended action, but chose not to speak. Karen Caden, Dennis Caden, Molly Hintlian, and Rachel Graves.
Okay. So I'll just quickly respond to that. Obviously, when I wanted to get support from the 101s in the chamber, I had the business owner ask me if there was a possibility if he could help out with this. He did. He went and retrieved these letters for me. I feel pretty comfortable with that. The letters were written by the 101s, the chamber, and the town council, who all represent their constituents. So yeah, I'm going to reach out to, I'm one person, I'm going to reach out to a business owner to help me out on something. So I feel really confident in that, and I think if the chamber were concerned about it, they would not have written the letter for him to give to the city council. The solution as far as the businesses that are open is something we've talked about with the city manager, and I've talked about with the sheriff's department, and it's a pretty easy solution actually. It has to do with, and this is why this measure is supposed to go, is to be sent back to the staff to collaborate and come back with an ordinance that hits these qualifications. But to kind of check in with existing and non-conforming permits in that process to make sure that we don't negatively affect those people. Make sure that if they have a permit that says I can stay open until 2 a.m., that permit is transferable. There's a lot of ways to write this to make it work. It also allows the sheriffs to chime in on what those hours might be. City attorney as well as staff can chime in on the zoning and the challenges that might go with certain hours so that we can get those hours correct. So I know we put up the numbers, I think it was 351 and 17, and I think if you go and you look at activity levels, and there's a number of ways you can look at that, 17 crimes between 2 and 5, given the number of cars on the road, for example, is probably really, really high compared to 351 when there's traffic up and down Encinitas Boulevard from avenue to avenue to the ocean. So I would be really careful with those numbers you put up. I'm not sure they tell the true story. This, in the end, though, this is about public safety, helping our sheriffs be more effective, creating a positive environment for our business, our workers, creating a scenario where a worker knows they're not going to be at work at 3 a.m. and have to walk back to their car and feel unsafe. And then within that, it comes down, if you do live downtown, everyone I talk to talks about the challenges of somebody coming back to their car at 4 a.m. in the morning, making noise. And this is one more opportunity for us to give these people their neighborhood back. So I do think it's important, though. I think the point of these businesses that are open is something we absolutely want to stay on top of. And I think we can. Again, it's a very easy solution. We acknowledge the existing permits, the non-confirming permits being exempt from the law, and we allow them to transfer in instances where that permit may transfer with the business, such, for example, like a bar or something like that. It's a pretty easy solution to this. So I'm going to let everyone else talk, and I'll let it come back.
Okay, I'll hop in there first. So my first question is, which businesses? This is 7-Eleven. But what if you want to buy gas? You're going on a road trip. What do we do with all the businesses that rely on I-5? I-5 is going 724, like it or not. And so, we're going to shut down the gas station, 76 station, the Shell station, all along. I see this as a problem. But the real question is, what's stopping 7-Eleven from closing during those hours? And I think the speaker hit it right on the nose. It is a franchise agreement issue. They are precluded from closing. The reason I know this is I've talked to the 7-Eleven owner, Preet, and his brother, Roger, in Village Park. And they said exactly that to me. They said, I have to stay open. It's not profitable. Will you write me a letter or will you support me? So I think the answer is this is a 7-Eleven unique issue, really, that it is they're asking to try and get out of having to be open in that non-profitable time. He doesn't take in enough revenue. I'm talking about Preet and Roger in Village Park. They don't take in enough revenue in those off hours to pay the labor cost of the guys keeping the lights on and everything. And there's probably not that much work for them to do that they can stock the whole building or stock the, take that time to be doing something useful. So I think this is a bit of an overreach, and I would like to see if I'm okay with moving forward with a hearing about this. I would go the next step if you want to. At this time, I'm not supporting the concept of limiting it because I think that if you peel it back, just as the public speaker noted, this is a franchise issue between the owner and 7-Eleven, and on the other hand, I also support gas stations being open at that time, especially along the freeway. There are other services we may want open. Grocery stores, we're going to start closing grocery stores at night. Some people work odd shifts, and that's when they go shop. So, but I would support a hearing, putting this item on an agenda where we could have the other open businesses represented here too. I'll yield to Councilmember San Antonio.
Thank you, Mayor Ehlers. I mean, I see what you're talking about. Just from, living life. I was single at the time. I was out in the town. I was out until the bars closed. I'd have to agree. There's nothing good that happens after 2, whether that was me or, the people I ran around with or people I saw out. I get it. I understand that what you're saying about the, maybe it's a franchise issue, but I don't know. I tend to agree that the people that were out after 2, I mean, they're probably drunk. They're probably doing stuff that I, did in my younger days. But I also see that I've seen gas stations that are open that don't have a attendant. They have, you just go there, pump your gas, and leave. I get it. It's a credit card, but also I understand what you're saying about the grocery stores as well. But maybe a 24-hour CVS. I understand that, but I don't know. I definitely see it as a public, as a safety issue, not just for the business owner, not just for the people that work there, not for the people that are leaving the bars. I don't know. I have enough experience down on the 101. Growing up here, staying out late, working late. I'm not out until 2 at night working, thankfully, but I don't know, 2 and 5 doesn't seem like something harsh. I don't think it's a terrible thing. I get it. There are people with off hours. You bring up some good points, Mayor Ehlers. I do hear you. But if we're going to push it to a hearing, I understand that. I just needed to say what I, things I've experienced in my lifetime, things I've done, and I get it. I understand that there is definitely a safety issue late at night. And, between those hours, I don't see a 3-hour window, whether it's gas station or a 24-hour grocery. I think a grocery store is probably manned with more than one person at the counter. I don't know. I'll yield for that, but I definitely have some feelings about it. I don't think it's out of the question, but I do see there are valid points on both sides.
Councilmember Schaefer.
Thank you, Mayor Ehlers. Yeah, I think it's a little bit much. It almost seems to be throwing the baby out with the bathwater a little bit. The 2 stores are having the major issues. I mean, for them to pump up the security during that hour, or I know that our patrols down there on 101, that's kind of the predominant spot, but that's not for it to be a citywide issue. I don't think El Camino has the same issues that 101 has. I don't think Encinitas Boulevard has the same issues. I don't think any of the some of the gas stations might on the freeway, but I think it's a little bit it's a little bit overreach, I think, on the security side of it. Personally, I think that we have the security in place. We have at that time we have 7 officers on duty that can get there. And we can make things happen. But for a store owner to have to sit there and worry about his own franchise agreement and the money it costs to run, it's a little bit overreaching, in my personal opinion.
Okay, Councilmember Lyons.
I'm not out after 11 except for this meeting, so I don't have the, and hopefully not tonight. So I don't have that experience, but I know Javier has had this interest and concern for a while, and I've also talked with the chambers and the 101s, different ones, to kind of socialize with them. What are your thoughts? What I want to say first is I understand Javier's concern in that he's got a situation that he doesn't like, he would like to close, and he has restrictions that he can't. But I don't see this as a city issue. And I don't think it's the city's job to carve out a public policy for one business owner. I also think that there would be a lot of negative impacts to other business owners, that people, when they need that service at that time of the night, really do rely on the businesses being open. So when there's a situation like this, where there's a constituent who has an issue, has a concern, I like to try to think about how we can help. I wouldn't support us moving forward with a policy, and I almost think it's not quite appropriate yet to do a public engagement. But I want to offer 2 ideas that might be first steps, and then see where we go. One is, would it be helpful for the mayor and for city council to support a letter to Javier or to the franchise outlining what our level of support is for the 7-Elevens, maybe it's just Javier, I don't know if it's the other one too, but to close due to the unique nature of our more rural community. I think sometimes you think, well, I don't know, this is a franchise. They're not going to change their perspective just for one community, but sometimes that can help. So I want to suggest that maybe that's a way forward. And then secondly, I think this would be a wonderful opportunity for our new business commission to jump right in and kind of earn some chops for helping to bring something really up close and present forward to a resolution. I think it's a bigger business commission-like question, and it's the stuff they're going to have to wrangle with. Maybe this is an appropriate thing to ask our new business commission when they're formed to take on.
Councilmember Schaefer.
And simply put, it's the businesses wouldn't be open if it wasn't profitable. And so there's in this case they're forced to be open, but some of these other businesses are there, and that's part of their stock time. They might as well be open. Somebody can run up the register, but there are people that use it. And again, I think Fabian did a good job of showing the amount of incidents. And this is a single business seemingly issue.
Deputy Mayor O'Hara.
Cities with business hours in the state of California: Berkeley, Emeryville, Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Jose, West Hollywood. So people do it. So we're not saying specific hours. We're not saying for the 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven happened to be where the crime happened that pushed this conversation into the open. And quite honestly, for me, and I hope for the rest of us up here, this isn't about the. Go ahead and open your comments up here and take a look at this person. This isn't about the. This isn't about the business hours, and this is about what happened to this person. Scroll down.
Talking about it in the staff report?
On the staff report, scroll down. Open the documents and scroll down.
In the public comment.
Public comment.
Oh,
Yeah.
public comment, okay.
It's about this. And I'm not going to put this up because I don't think anybody wants to see it.
You're showing photos from the public comment,
Yeah.
just because nobody can see
Yeah.
it on tape.
So, I mean, that's what this is about. How do we keep our people safe? How do we, is a business, can we make it very easy? Obviously, Los Angeles, Berkeley, West Hollywood figured out a way to do it that didn't offend their businesses. We don't need to recreate the wheel to create business hours. Someone's already done it. Let's do what they do. Let's bring safety to our people. Let's help our businesses, the ones that want to stay open and have, again, non-conforming permits or existing permits. They can keep going. They can transfer it. This is why we have a city attorney. This is why we have Scott Drapekin at Code and going into development services to figure these things out. Our job is to set policy that is focused on public safety. These pictures are not public safety. These pictures are something we can fix.
So are we saying that some of these businesses could stay open during those hours?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And you'll find that's the case in West Hollywood. You'll find that's the case in Los Angeles and San Francisco. You get off the highway and pump your gas in San Francisco. Get off the highway, pump your gas in Los Angeles. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about figuring out a way to come up with business hours in our city to address it in the way that other cities already do. I mean, I don't expect our staff to go reinvent the wheel. I expect them to look at what other people are doing and figure out if we can do it. My suggestion, and what I'd like to see us do, is direct staff to do exactly that. Look at what other cities are doing, come back with our version of appropriate business hours. They may be 2, they may be 2:30 to 4:30, they may be 3 to 5. That's something I think the sheriff's department can talk to about and help us with, but we can come up with the right thing, and it can come back here, and then we can vote on what we want to do with that ordinance.
I'm with the mayor on this. I'd be willing to listen to it. I'd hear it come forth and bring it forth. And I don't know where my commitment is at this point, but I'd be more along that line.
Okay, let's, you got O'Hara, then Marco San Antonio, and then me next, so.
Yeah, I just,
once you're done.
Well, keep going. I'm sure I'll finish up. Go ahead.
Okay, Marco?
I mean, if that, I agree. If it's other businesses can stay open, then leave it where it may. But maybe the travel corridors. I mean, I get it. There's 7-Eleven that's off Santa Fe. There's some gas stations. That gas station Shell has a food mart in there or whatever. It's got a convenience store. There's definitely some businesses along the travel corridor that has it. But the one in Village Park. I mean, I don't know. What do they service over there? I haven't talked to those guys since they came in for their use permit or whatever that zoning permit. But what are they really servicing over there between 2 and 5? And they got to stay open. So I get it. I understand if it's through a travel corridor, the freeway, or the highway. It makes sense that sure. But if you got to get off and drive a mile off the highway, I know there's one right off the freeway. I think those ones probably have a more legitimate, hey, I want to stay open, or it makes sense for us to stay open. But these other ones, it makes sense for me to support that they could be closed if they wanted to be closed. So I would support that.
So I'm going to hop in. I like the suggestion of giving this to the Business Commission. I think that's a good first step before it comes back to us. And I'd be looking for them to do several things. Investigate what other cities do, which I think is part of what your recommendation was. Come back and give us their opinion on, is this really going to solve a safety problem? And then I'd also like them to investigate whether or not this is a 7-Eleven franchise issue more than it is a city safety issue. I firmly believe that. And I look at people that stop at the 7-Eleven in Olivenhain, and you do see people go in there late at night. There are workers, some cleaners that are traveling that through Rancho Santa Fe that stop there. I see the sheriffs there when I drive by after our late night meetings, and I'm driving by at midnight or 1 a.m., which they'd still be open.
So we keep talking about 7-Eleven. We haven't mentioned Valero in Cardiff, which I know from my time in Cardiff 101 has substantial problems in after hours.
Yeah, I think the reason I mentioned 7-Eleven is because
We're focusing on one business, though, and this is a citywide thing, not a single business thing.
What I said was look at the general case like you asked, but I also wanted to just
hold on.
Well,
you guys are going to this one business because he helped me acquire these letters. If Valero, who has problems, I know they have problems because I used to hear about it on Cardiff 101, had written those letters, we'd be saying, well, Valero's the only one who wants this problem right now.
Mayor, point of order. I think you have the floor.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks, but I want to make the full picture here.
Hit your button and we'll get you in. You have. So going back to the point I was making, nothing is stopping any one of the companies or businesses from closing. They can close now. They are allowed to do that. And so I'd like to know, is there something precluding any of the businesses that are currently interested in closing from them closing without this law? Why can't they? It's a free country. They can close. So I was going to make a motion that we push this to Business Commission, but with the looking at what other cities do and what exceptions they allow. But I also want to know whether, because I've met with the owners of 7-Eleven, the other 7-Elevens in town, and they do have a preclusion, and I suspect that's driving that one case. And then we have a chance that when it goes to the Business Commission that we notify the other 24-hour businesses so they know. We want their word too. We want to hear not only from the 7-Eleven, from the Valero, we want to hear from anybody and everybody that's open that might be affected by this change. And then have the Business Commission, as one of their first tasks, it's good to give them a purpose, have them come and make a recommendation to City Council. That's my motion.
Second.
Yeah, okay. Councilmember Lyons.
Okay, thank you. I think that I think at the Business Commission, it can be vetted that, and this is my major question, and that is, I have to assume that the businesses who are open 24/7 in our community want to be open 24/7. They have made a business decision to be open 24/7. That's a simple business decision. They have to know that there's a benefit to them for that. So if we have a new policy that says, no, you have to be closed or during this period, or maybe you can get an exception. If you get this exception, then okay, you can stay open. Then I wonder what's going to prevent the franchise of 7-Eleven from requiring their 7-Elevens to get that exception. I just don't see how this is the right solution for the 7-Eleven problem. So I see this generated from a 7-Eleven problem. I'm not sure the right solution is to limit business hours across the whole city. I'm open to considering if there's another solution, though, that would help this franchise address the issue.
So again, not about a franchise, about our residents, the city. And I guess next time I won't ask a business to help me acquire letters. My mistake for condemning them to this. We keep talking about being solely about businesses, and we keep talking about a commission that doesn't exist yet. Putting the cart before the horse. And if it does exist, hopefully it does, this won't come back to us for a year. Roughly at this point. Well, let me yield the floor to Councilmember San Antonio for a second.
Okay. Councilmember San Antonio.
I think to what Jim just said, we bring up the Business Commission, but it's not yet formed. I guess my question would be, how long is this going to take to get to the Business Commission, them to mull it over, find out their findings, bring it back to us. The fact that it's not formed yet and that we've voted on them or are in the process of forming it, I think it seems like it's now something that instead of possibly getting staff and or bringing something to us sooner, that now it's going to be pushed even further down the road, further making it something that now seems kind of, well, it'll happen in the future, or we'll get it to you. We'll figure this out. The fact that it's just, this commission is not even formed yet, just seems like a far off thing to me, to give it to them when we have very intelligent staff here, to what Deputy Mayor O'Hara said, that it can at least be looked at other cities, and at least something can be talked about sooner than later. To me, I see it as a possible, and has been, whether you want to say it's only been 17 instances, for me, one instance is enough, I guess. Like, clearly those photos were, graphic. It didn't happen to me, but my business is literally 4 doors away from her, from 7-Eleven. So I know her from personal experience, from going over there to get something. But it seems that we keep bringing up 7-Eleven. I understand that we've talked where it was the example, but it could have not been her. It could have been Cardiff. It could have been Village Park. It could have been Valero. I mean, Filiberto's in its heyday was a spot you went to fight people afterwards after you're at the bar. I mean, that really was what you would do. You go over there, not me. But
Yes.
people would go over there and fight. I can imagine that Valero and Pueblo would have a similar issue over there. And I don't know. I don't go out anymore, but I can imagine that would happen over there. They're just young, too much testosterone in some of these dudes, and it happens. So I don't know. I see that there could be a solution to this. I don't know what it is yet, but I do see that I get it. I understand, Councilmember Lyons, but that maybe this isn't the solution, but I think it would help us to get the information sooner than later. I don't know. I'll yield.
Okay, Councilmember Schaefer.
Yeah, I get that the Business Commission is not formed yet. They're going to be formed soon enough. And
6 months?
yeah, but I think the predominant portion of this is in the summertime. I don't know what Fabian found out with the 17 incidents, but I don't think we're in the high season right now. We have a seasonal run here. I don't think it might be a good first task. If you want to bring it back sooner, you want to make a motion,
Well, no, so just hold on to your point, and I do have a substitute motion, but it's with your point in consideration. If we wait for the commission, we give them time to make a work plan, they take it under their work plan, they bring it back to us, we're talking minimum 6 months. That's really probably 9 months. And right now it's January, and to your point, summer's busy. It's going to be through summer when it's the worst, right? So I don't want to take the floor. I know you're.
I think the idea would be I don't think it's a race. I don't want to take up staff time right this minute. I think the Business Commission, as they're formulating, as they're getting together, as they're happening, this might be a good first discussion that they're in on. It doesn't have to be a part of their work plan, but let's get them something right out the gates to kind of get their wet their whistle, so to speak, and now we're up and running and see what it's about and kind of work with staff. It gives them a chance to maybe work with staff and bring it back to us. Hopefully, April, May.
Yeah, and when you're done, I'll have the city manager pipe in on the timing for the Business Commission.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So tonight, council did adopt the ordinance to create the Business Commission. So what we'll do now is we can actually start recruiting. The ordinance goes into effect 30 days after adoption, so it will go into effect February 20th. So in the meanwhile, we already have applications for commissions, so we'll just go ahead and start recruitment. And then we could do interviews for that commission on February 25th already, because that way we could have that because it goes into effect. They'll do that after it goes into effect. And just to let you know, council can always assign commissions duties, even outside the work plan. When I was director of Park and Rec a couple times, council would come up with something that would come up like mid-year. So I just want to let you know, you can give a commission a work item at any time throughout their work plan or throughout the year.
Sure, that's great. I still don't think I'll get back in time for summertime, and I don't want to take a new commission and test them out. That's not the goal of this initiated item. Isn't to test the business commission and see how they do with it. I want them to get in a rhythm doing everything right, and then they can take on things that are controversial. I think we want to set them up to success, not for something that is going to make them all run away. So I have a
Substitute motion.
Substitute motion is to direct staff to collaborate with the sheriff's department and staff and the city attorney to create a draft ordinance that can come back to city council for public review on a public hearing or something like that. And then from there, we can decide under scrutiny of the public what we want to do and what makes the most sense. All the businesses can chime in, our potential business commissioners can chime in, our residents can chime in, and we can go from there. And then we can make the decision rather than laying off a controversial decision off to a business commission. Let's take it on ourselves to figure this out.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Councilmember San Antonio?
I think, again, I thank you, City Manager, for letting me know when the commission was going to start. I think, I guess as I look down the road, I think we talked about the Sharrows on San Alejo. We were trying to get that done before the summertime, and then it got pushed back, and it was going to be till after the summer, after this coming summer, before it would come back to us. I guess I just keep, it's got to be there's got to be a reading, all these things have to happen in order for something like this to come to fruition. Whether this gets passed or not, this could die after, it could. And but I guess when I look ahead, how much further this could take, I guess it just seems like an impossibility when even the Sharrows, I thought we were going to get that done that night and we were going to do it and it was going to be great. We figured that out, but I don't know. I just, I'll leave it there, but I support you.
And Councilmember Lyons. I'm going to have trouble with that for a while.
I think the act of, as this substitute motion is captured, of creating an ordinance is going to be more time consuming than what looks like the time frame for the new business commission to get up and running. And I wonder, is there an extra cost? I'm going to look at our city manager. Some ordinances are simpler than others. I mean, having not gotten public input before we draft an ordinance, is that a budgetary item we need to consider in our budget?
No, so what we can do, a couple things. If you remember what we did with the Business Commission, actually before we even introduced an ordinance, we came to council and got input. And that's why when we introduced it, that went pretty quick. And then, of course, second reading was and adoption was tonight. So what we could do, Deputy Mayor O'Hara, is, again, you listed a whole bunch of cities. I'm very big in not reinventing the wheel. If the wheel's already out there, let me take a look. And if it can kind of fit, we might have to make it a little bit different size wheel to fit Encinitas, but let's not do that. So I think part of it is maybe what could happen is staff could research. We could look at some ordinances. We could come back to council and say, here's what we found. what would you like to see in this ordinance? We would do it in a public meeting, so it's a public hearing. I think what we would do too, since this is the case, I think that we should, because we have partnerships with the 101s and the main streets and everything like that, have them get the word out about this meeting. Let's make sure we do some social media. This way, you're going to get the input from your 24-hour businesses, the one that aren't. So maybe could that be that way? No, that's not any extra cost. And then this way we get your feedback. And then if, let's say, council as a whole wants to move forward, the ordinance already has a lot of good stuff, so we're not.
And that's really what my motion is.
I want to
Exactly
still
that.
hold the floor, please.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'm
I just
sorry.
asked our city
Yeah.
manager a question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. So to me, that sounds like it would take as long, if not longer, than handing this to our new business commission. So I'm not sure there's any benefit at all to go that direction. I would like to provide our new business commission with the opportunity to take on this question, and that's what they're there for. They're there, they will be there to be the conduit between the businesses and the city council. So I think this would be a really wonderful opportunity for them to jump right in. And also it sheds light on the fact that we really need them. This is, I think we've made a good decision to form them. This is a good example of the kind of thing that they will take on to help bring information through them in a public forum and then to present to us recommendations. So I'm not going to support the substitute motion.
Deputy Mayor, how long has the urban UFAC had the tree ordinance for? How long? Just guess.
I'm not sure how that's relevant to this.
Because you're saying send it to a commission and a committee. It could take them a year and a month, because that's how long they've had the tree ordinance. Just because we give it to them doesn't mean they're going to be done with it in a day or 2 days or a month or 2 months or 2 meetings or 1 meeting. It might take them 12 meetings. So we can do this in the scenario we've put forward. We can put this in the scenario that I put forward. It can come back and we can decide, and it can get done in a timely manner. We can guarantee that by doing my motion. Your motion may not come back till next year. He may have forgot about it by then. Not likely, but but to the point of getting this done in a timely fashion, that doesn't guarantee any time. You have an infinite timeline there, whereas we're giving it a pretty specific timeline. So your argument actually is counter to what you're actually saying. If you want to make sure it gets done, we do it, and we get it done. So I stand by my counter motion, substitute motion.
Did you modify it with the, instead of draft language, coming back with research?
Sure.
That was the one thing
that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a substitute motion with that modification stipulated in it.
Yeah.
Can you read it back?
Yeah, so for the the substitute motion is to direct staff to collaborate with all the stakeholders to provide input based on what other cities are looking at, what other cities do for council consideration in a future draft ordinance and a public meeting.
Love it. And I think it's great that the community will have the opportunity to come back and talk about it. Business owners will have the opportunity. It's a great outcome, and I'm glad we get to talk about it up here, and we'll move this forward in that way. So I'm
Okay,
not throwing anyone else is.
Sorry. One question would be, I think you also said that we would invite the public in particular, 24-hour, and we would have the chamber and Main Streets promote it so that all the businesses knew the possibility of what was happening.
Yeah, I think we're having it here at a council meeting, and so.
Yeah. But I wanted to check to see if we could add that. I think you said it. I want to make sure it was reflected in the. To me, that's important. Is that I want not only the people that potentially want to get the business hours. I want the ones that might want to oppose it too.
We have an assistant, city manager has an assistant in her office who's a business development manager who would handle that for us. So
Yeah.
I assume that would naturally happen. That's
You had said it during your motion making, and I wanted to, and I was offering it as a friendly amendment.
Sure.
Updating. Okay, so I got a yes on that.
Yeah, we'll ensure that that's included in the motion.
Okay.
And at that meeting, we could, I'm going now, at that meeting, we could either direct staff to go draft an ordinance, or we could at that point send it to Business Commission. If, if we're further along there and we decide that's a route. Or we could kill it, too. So, right, I'm just making the point.
It'll be a council meeting, yeah.
I'm
Yep.
making the point. I think we have a substitute motion. I don't see anybody else. I'm going to call the question on the substitute motion that we just read back. And if this passes, the main motion fails? Okay. Or it's pulled or whatever, what's it called? So,
That motion carries 4-1 with Councilmember Lyons voting no.
wait. Oh, yeah. Okay. So that is.
I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor
Item
O'Hare.
number. No, you're correct. You said it correctly, yeah. Yeah. Okay, item number 13. Let's do city council member reports pursuant to AB 1234, starting down at the far end.
I have nothing to report.
I attended the San Diego Community Power meeting. Just wanted to let you guys know that they have offered their deepest discount, or they were able to offer their deepest discount with the rates. I know they are still unusually high, but that was something they wanted to get out there. Check your bills.
Still going up, even though it's a
Still
discount.
going up, but going down.
Perfect. I attended the Regional Solid Waste Association, and everything's in working order there, and trash is still getting picked up. Trash cans are still safe. And then the San Leo JPA met yesterday morning, and they have, we have adopted a new position, a new deputy general manager, and it will be filled by Tom Falk, who's intended to possibly take over the general manager position come summertime. Along with that, I will now be the board chair of that commission, or that.
Congratulations.
Yeah, there we go.
Last week, we had our NCDD meeting, and we discussed our grants and the grants that we received this year for new buses, as well as a build-out of the Buena Vista Creek Transit Center in Vista. Again, they're working hard for us at NCTD, and I'm glad they're moving along.
And on Sandag, I had a couple meetings. First one on the 6th of January was the Sandag ITALK, which is the Independent Taxpayer Oversight Committee Selection Committee. As mayor, I was on that. ITALK oversees the use of Transnet funds to make sure it's being properly followed the will of the people when they voted to extend it. And we selected new members for the Independent Taxpayers Oversight Committee. Second item that I attended was last Friday on the 9th, Sandag Board of Directors, and we reviewed the 2025 annual report, and that is now out on the website. You can review it there. And that's it. We will move on to city manager report.
Great, thank you. So we just want to let everyone know we are going to start the Grandview stair repair. So the Grandview stairs will be temporarily closed to the public beginning on Tuesday, February 3rd for structural repairs. The staircase is anticipated to be reopened to the public by May 25th, so it'll be before Memorial Day. Now, don't forget, D Street should be opening at the end of this month, so as soon as one goes down, one should open. Throughout the duration of this capital project, the city's contractor will be replacing deteriorated timber members throughout the staircases. They'll replace all the corroded steel hardware and structural brackets along the staircase, replacing sacrificial timber elements at the bottom of the concrete stairs, and removing and replacing the shower platform. So the adjacent public parking lot will be closed to the public, and marine safety will be provided in the event of emergency. So just to let you know. So I just wanted to let folks know. Also, too, just wanted to give a quick ICE enforcement update. So just a couple things on that. I had reported earlier that council directed us to send MOUs to both Border Patrol and to Homeland Security. Homeland Security came back and told us that they would not sign an MOU. We did get it off to Border Patrol. Border Patrol did not say no, but wanted to set up a meeting. So Deputy City Manager Mike James is working on a meeting for the two of us. And then just to let everyone know, we we were able to help an individual, a business owner. Apparently, someone was detained, and we were able to put them in. We got in contact with Homeland Security. We were able to find the person so that the family could know where they were being detained. So that was great. And again, that was Mike making a call. So I must say that when we do call over to Border Patrol and Homeland Security, they are very receptive. They got back to Mike within less than 24 hours. So, again, we are still working on that. We have not received really any responses to the FOIAs, which is the Freedom of Information Act, but we do have that information updated on the website under immigration information, and we'll continue to do our best to continue to update those FOIAs and any incidents that do happen. And I do want to let council know that Captain Watts is getting notification if we do have any probable operations in the city. Usually when he gets them, most of the time it doesn't lead to an operation, but we are getting that advance notice. So just wanted to let council and the public know. And that's what I have for this evening. Thank you.
Okay, city attorney report.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing to report.
Okay, city clerk.
Real briefly, we're still doing the boards and commissions annual recruitment. That will close tomorrow at 5 p.m., and that's only for non-incumbents. Incumbent deadline was last Thursday, the 15th.
Okay, very good. And with that, we are adjourned. Jeez, 9.